Okay. Welcome, everybody, to our regular council meeting for Tuesday, May 19th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We do have all members of council in attendance this evening. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wendat peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. If you are able, please stand for our national anthem. Oh.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
You have to push a little bit harder. I'd like to thank members of our administration for putting together that very own Essex, Oh Canada. It was really nice to open our brand new chambers with that. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize a very important milestone for the town of Essex here this evening. As we hold our first, sorry, I'm so damn proud. As we hold our first regular council meeting in our new council chambers as part of our town hall expansion project. This expansion has truly been years in the making, with shovels officially hitting the ground in December 2024. It represents a significant investment in the future of our municipality and reflects the continued growth and development of our community. I would like to extend sincere thank you to our former CEO, Mr. Doug Sweet. He's here tonight, along with the many staff members from across the organization for their leadership, dedication, and hard work in bringing this vision to life. I would also like to thank members of council, this council and past councils for their support and commitment to this important project. As residents know, we've simply outgrown our existing building. This expansion provides much needed office space, additional meeting space, additional parking, and a much larger, more functional council chambers that better serves our staff, council, and the public. Most importantly, this project brings all of our town hall services soon together under one roof. By the end of summer, development services and building services will move from the Guesto office to this location here at Town Hall, creating a more streamlined and convenient experience for residents. While we are excited to be using this space tonight, there's still work to be completed. Remaining construction including HVAC work, the renovation of the former council chambers, landscaping and parking lot improvements are anticipated to be completed by the end of summer. On behalf of council, I'd also like to thank our residents and staff for their patience and understanding throughout this ongoing construction project. Some days it was really loud in here, and I can attest to it. It wasn't always peaceful working here. Tonight marks an exciting step forward for the town of Essex, and we continue to serve the community from this very new space for many years to come. So thank you. I think we're going to take a picture. Okay, we will go to Director Malandrucolo for 2 closed meeting reports.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, through you. On April 20, 2026, it was rescheduled from April 20 to April 27, 2026. Council met and closed at 3:30 p.m. to discuss information supplied in confidence by the municipality pursuant to sections 239B, F, and I of the Municipal Act 2001. At this meeting, council received a presentation from Essex Nonprofit Homes, who explained that they're an affordable housing provider with 121 aging homes, with many over 50 years old. Since becoming a nonprofit in 2012, Essex Nonprofit Homes has stabilized operations through refinancing, repairs, maintenance, investments, and limited grant funding. Despite these efforts, repair needs now exceed $20 million, and available funding has been exhausted. To preserve as much affordable housing as possible, Nonprofit Homes explained to council that the organization plans to sell 53 homes in phases between 2026 and 2028 and use the proceeds to repair the remaining units. Tenants received letters notifying them of this. When tenants' homes are sold, they may receive an N12 notice requiring them to move within 60 days of that notice, and they will receive 1 month's compensation. Options for them may include transferring to another unit if available, leaving early by agreement, or purchasing the home. Essex Nonprofit Homes explained that their long-term vision is to provide affordable quality homes through repairing existing homes and building new homes if funding to build can be secured. The town does not provide social services. This service is done so provincially and through the City of Windsor currently. The town would rely on the county for any expansion of such services. The county, by their resolution number 095-2026, has made it clear that their stance is to not acquire or support supportive housing types. Council also met and closed on April 27th at 4:30 to discuss potential agreements related to the acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality under Section 239(2)C of the Municipal Act 2001 and Section 239K of the Municipal Act 2001. And that is the extent of my report.
Thank you, Director Malandrucolo, for the thorough update of our closed meeting. Any declaration of conflict of interest from members of council this evening? Seeing none, if any member of council finds themselves in a conflict of interest later, please just let us know. Tonight, I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder of the published agenda, and it will be as amended, as we have several amendments. 10.2.1, we have Mr. Wing-On Lee from Horizon here for questions. 10.2.2, we have Mr. Bill and Yana Manolakis. They are a registered delegate that registered late to speak to one of our zoning applications. 10.3.1, Ahmad Nahar from Horizons, and 10.3.2, Jacob Smith and Kyle Edmonds from Dillon for questions on one of our zoning applications. I would also at this time, Council and Director Malandrucolo, to move my motion on the flooding task force to postpone it to a meeting when we can have a roundtable meeting with all of the delegates to discuss the options of the task force versus advisory. I think it would be more fruitful if we bring all of the registered delegates together. This is something that I talked to Director Gerard about and some of the delegates about as well, and the CAO. So if that is okay with council, I would seek that motion as well. Moved by Councillor McGuire-Blaze, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? All in favor? That is carried. Looking for a mover and a seconder that we adopt the regular council meeting minutes for May 4th. Moved by Councillor Guerin, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the special council meeting minutes for April 27th at 5 o'clock be received. Moved by Councillor Guerin, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. You're hidden a little back there now. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Looking for a mover and a seconder that we adopt the special council meeting minutes for April 27th. Moved by Councillor McGuire-Blaze, supported by Councillor Guerin. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. We have no public presentations, nothing from unfinished business. We will move right to reports from administration, finance, and business services. Going right to Heather. Okay, we'll go to Director Rowe first.
Thank you. I will actually pass it over to our manager, Heather, who will provide a brief walkthrough of this report, and then she and I will both take questions following her presentation. So over to our manager, McDonald.
Thank you. Through the chair. The report provides an update on the town's successful transition from the third-party water and wastewater billing services to in-house delivery, which began in 2024. The transition has resulted in significant cost savings and operational improvements, with the project completed approximately $367,000 under budget, which was mostly due to our software savings. Annual administration costs have also decreased substantially since bringing the service in-house. In addition, the town replaced more than 1,000 outdated or failed water meters over the past 2 years, improving billing accuracy and ensuring water usage is properly tracked and billed. The report also highlights several customer service and operational enhancements, including proactive monitoring of high water usage to help residents identify leaks sooner, increased enrollment in e-billing, and improved coordination between the Revenue Services Division and the Environmental Services Divisions through electronic work order systems, as well as we share an appointment calendar. Staff are also reviewing properties that may be connected to municipal services but are not currently being billed, as well as addressing unauthorized water connections. Overall, the transition has improved efficiency, accountability, customer service, and internal operations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for joining us tonight. Questions, comments from members of council this evening? Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just trying, I can't find the actual number of the properties that were not connected, but have it in front of their house that are now being billed. And I'm just wondering if you could touch on that with us for a little bit so that we can better understand that. And then I have some other questions after.
Certainly, I'd be happy to take that question. The report noted a total of 31 properties that were identified for further investigation following our taking the water billing in-house. That process allowed us to identify properties that may have had a connection to our water system and were receiving water services, but for unknown reasons were not receiving accurate billing. So we have since rectified those and got those properties into compliance, which is positive. In addition, we also noted that there were properties who were connected to our municipal services who may not necessarily have been using the water, but should have been receiving a flat fee on a monthly basis for the connection itself. Our bylaw does require that all connected properties to our municipal water and wastewater services are charged that monthly base fee, whether or not the water is actively being used.
So a follow up to that. So when you say connected, it doesn't necessarily mean that their house is connected to our water system. That means that there's an on-off spigot in their front yard that they could connect to, because I think that's a bit of the disconnect. Where I received quite a few calls on this that, the water's running past, it's always been running past, but now they're receiving a bill for something they're not using. And there's some confusion on that. And they're wondering, like, are we paying for water usage, or are we paying for the ability to use the water? And so they're trying to have that understanding. And when they were told that it was because they were connected, they felt that they weren't technically connected because it's not connected to their property. So that helps. Maybe I don't know if you have anything more to add to that. I'll turn it back over to the next other question.
Thank you. Yes, that is a great question. We do have some properties that either individually or a row of houses on a street, for example, may have had these services brought to the lot. And that could be buried underground. It could be sticking up at the foot of their lot in any number of locations, seen or unseen. That particular connection itself is what drives the flat monthly fee, and that is to be connected to the municipal system. If they were utilizing the water from that connection, there would be, of course, a water meter and a line going into the home or the commercial property, whatever the case may be. And so that's the biggest difference. We have had some residents reach out for clarification, but not all that were captured in this latest round of compliance. So good information for the public to have tonight regarding the difference between the connection and the services.
Thank you. And lastly, I just wondered if you could speak to, because you talked about being able to identify high water usage. What steps have we taken to be able to do that? Because I didn't think we had that ability in our system.
Thank you. Yes, that's also a great question. So we do try our best to assist residents who reach out with concerns over high usage. There are some tips on our website that residents could go take a look at, but also they are able to call and reach out to our customer service team who can direct them to a few basic troubleshooting type of items that might help them identify the source of a leak if that might be the case. I think oftentimes people are surprised to learn that normal consumption could be anywhere between 15 and 35 cubic meters a month. So something else to watch out for as well, what the actual reading is on your bill. I'll turn it over to our manager, McDonald, if she could provide any other tips or tricks that the frontline staff do provide to our residents. When that fails, we usually direct them to a plumber, but I'll allow Manager McDonald to chime in if there's anything missed.
Thank you. Through the chair. Yeah, so what our staff does is once we get our reads back from the Environmental Services Division, we actually analyze them. So we have a minimum, usually the houses for residential is around 15 cubic meters a month. So if we see somebody that's like significantly higher, then we will reach out to them right away and let them know that we think they may have a leak in their property.
Thank you for that report. That's really helpful, and I'm glad to know that we're actually looking at it. I know we don't have the ability, like some municipalities will call you if they see you've got running water. But at least this is something, and it will help with those high water usage accounts, so they don't maybe go 1 or 2 or 3 months unnoticed. I think it's a great step. So thank you for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Shepley, for your questions. Councillor Hammond.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Yeah, quite frankly, other than a couple of hiccups, I see the billing almost uneventful, unchanged. I'm happy with it. I'm just curious though, are you able to determine if, like say there's an illegal hookup and how are you able to tell if there's a legal hookup on somebody's house? And then I'm thinking more about these additional dwelling units and stuff like that that are coming into our neighborhoods and stuff like that to ensure that they're hooked up properly. Is there a way to tell that the water going to that property is getting billed adequately? Is there a way to monitor that?
Through the chair, what we normally do is well, the way we started finding it is we started comparing it to our tax rolls, which is something that we couldn't do with our third party before. So what we did is if we noticed that there was a residential property on our tax roll that didn't have a water account, that was our first step, and Environmental Services assisted us and went down to have a look to see what was going on at that piece of property.
Okay, no, I'm talking about a property that already has service that they're paying for. Turn a garage into additional dwelling unit and decide to hook the water up themselves and bypassing the meter. Is there any way for us to determine that that's happening?
Thank you, Councillor Hammond. That's a good question. I think some of the processes that we have in place already in terms of monitoring for increased consumption would allow us to potentially identify some of these properties where if, for example, they were tapping into a neighbor's, what would run through a neighbor's meter as an example, we could see an uptick in consumption and flag that resident who would then do investigation based off of our troubleshooting. The other thing that we do, and I can allow our manager McDonald to talk a little bit more in detail around what that procedure looks like. But she does work with our water team annually to look at our consumption versus water loss as a whole. We do that to ensure that it's in line with what municipal best practices in terms of where we would see that for the various activities that aren't metered through the municipalities, such as fire flows and things like that. But those would be our detection methods throughout the year. And then, of course, I'm thinking from a bylaw perspective, if somebody was noticing something and reported that to us, it would allow us to investigate. I'll allow Manager McDonald to elaborate if I've missed any of the key points of the annual process that she goes through to monitor our losses. And then, of course, if Director Gerard has any further technical information that he can share on that front as well, we could potentially turn it over to him.
Thank you through the chair. Director Rowe basically did say our processes. We do work very closely with environmental services. If there's anything that we don't see looking correct when we do our analysis and our calculating of the bills, we'll reach out to them and they will go to the respective properties. But I will let Director Gerard go more in detail if there is any more.
Thank you through the chair. So if specifically towards ADUs, if the ADU is within the home, it's not likely that the water's being stolen because it's going to be routed from the same plumbing. And then also for detached ADUs, there is a requirement that they aren't permitted to pull another service from the water main. They have to use the existing plumbing within the home, which if properly done is at post meter and not previous pre-meter. That being said, if there is an ADU, they are supposed to be getting a building permit and having a building permit pulled. So assuming that those individuals did pull a building permit, that would be inspected as part of the building permit process.
CEO Jerusovic.
Through the chair, I believe this is something that MPAC works on as well, because obviously if somebody doesn't pull a permit, we have no way of knowing if they've properly constructed it or connected. And so this is part of their review of properties. If they see something that isn't there, it would get accompanied into the valuation, and we work very closely with them, so.
Thank you. Councillor Allard.
Thank you through the chair. I read in there that there was 15 to 25 meters that fail every month. It's fail just giving a bad reading, or is fail something that we need replacing?
Through the chair. Basically what we find is that most of them come back with a 0 reading. Sometimes they read backwards as well, which gives us a little trigger to have a look at them. But as far as the actual technicals of meters, I'm going to let Director Gerard talk about that.
Through the chair, water meters have a useful life of approximately 10 years. They have a battery inside of them that they actually run off of a battery in the head that does the reading. So if the battery dies, then we'll get a 0 read. So that's typically what's happening because of the way that the town was built and homes were built. That we find that it kind of fluctuates with the economic time. So we always see a big influx in water meter replacements as they were installed, usually in large quantities. So we may see a lot of fluctuation in that number from year to year. So right now it may be 15 to 25, and then it may die down and it may increase depending on the lifespan, but generally about 10 years on a meter, and the batteries normally die.
Okay, thank you. Good question, Councillor Allard. Councillor Verbeek.
Okay, thank you through the mayor. I just have to say, the report, I really enjoyed reading the report. And all these technical questions about the operations tonight have also been very informative. But what struck me on Saturday while everybody was barbecuing and swimming and I was reading this report was that it was a real leap for our past CAO, Doug, Sweet, and Kate to to bring us to this, and we drag us to this because we as council had to, you know, support it. And I'm just ever so grateful that they had the vision to get us to where we are now, and convince us to support this brilliant idea to bring it in-house.
Thank you, Councilor Verbeek. Any other members of council this evening? I have heard a few comments that people perceive their water bill to be higher. That could be a whole bunch of things. That could be usage. That could be that water does go up every year. So just to ensure that residents are directed towards our water wastewater studies. I also did have a tour of the water plant a while ago. And Director Gerard, if you instructed me to do something, I went home and I did it. Can you please explain just if a resident feels their water usage is high, just a tip to how to check their own home, please?
Yeah, through you. Yeah, I mean, a good tip if you want to check and see if you have a water leak is to turn off all of your fixtures in your home. So make sure that you're not running your laundry, that your sinks aren't running, no water usage is happening in the home. And then go to your water meter and you can actually use a flashlight. Generally, a flashlight will work on your phone or an actual flashlight. And you flash the light on top of the water meter to get the numbers to come up. And if you see the water meter actually running while all of the fixtures are off, then you know that you have some type of leak in your system. You may have to do that a couple of times just because as your toilet leaks, it'll leak and then it'll wait till it hits a certain threshold and then fill back up. So you should probably do that for about 15 minutes. And if you don't see any usage in your home while all your fixtures are off, then your system is probably working. Also, calling a licensed plumber is also always a good idea. There are a lot of fixtures in your home that require maintenance, hot water tanks, your toilets, your sump pumps, your backwater valves all need to be inspected and maintained regularly. So utilizing a licensed professional plumber is also a very good idea.
Okay, thank you, Director Gerard. Councillor Hammond.
Thank you. Yeah, one other thing that I thought I should add was I noticed that you were able to find some discrepancies in some of the billing methods, some people not paying for sewer and other different reasons. I just want to make a note that it might not be a bad idea to look in some of those discrepancies, because usually when there's one leak, there's more leaks, and I just want to make note of that. Thank you.
Any other final questions from members of council? I also was grateful to receive this report. Thank you for providing it for us. And I think one of the big reasons why we moved in this direction is that ELK Energy at the time was not able to do collections for us. So we were losing out on water revenue. So it was a part of our diversified revenue sources. So I'm pretty proud of this move this term. At this point, I look for a mover and a seconder that the report be received for information. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Hammond, any final comments? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Moving on to planning, we have our site-specific zoning bylaw amendment for 80 County Road 50. Ms. Jabor is here, I believe, virtually with us. So what we will do is we will have Ms. Jabor walk through any changes from the open house. And then we do have Mr. Wing-On Lee who can answer questions. And we do have the delegates here to speak as well. So welcome, Ms. Jabor.
Thank you, and through the chair. First, a quick summary of the application and the report in the bylaw. Bylaw 2541 is regarding an application for a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment for the lands located at 80 Jackson Street in the hamlet of Colchester. The amendments are required to allow for the redevelopment of the lands for a 3-story mixed-use building consisting of 8 motel units and 18 residential dwelling units. Specifically, bylaw 2451 seeks to permit a motel as an additional commercial use, 2 dwelling units on the ground floor, and various other site-specific lot and building regulations, such as an increase in building height from 10 meters to 11.28 meters to accommodate an architectural feature on the building, and a reduced setback of 2.87 meters between the proposed building and the western lot line, which is the lot line that separates the property from the neighboring Grove Motel property. A public meeting was held on April 27th to hear comments from the public from circulated agencies and from council concerning the proposal. The proposal has been amended by the applicant slightly following the public meeting, and the proposal now seeks to add 18 motel units instead of 9 and 18 dwelling units instead of 19. In summary, the concerns raised at the public meeting related to the proposed zoning amendment were mainly about the need for the proposed motel, since there is an existing motel nearby, the adequacy of the proposed parking area to support the development, and the scale of the building and its compatibility with neighboring land uses. With respects to traffic and parking concerns, there was a traffic impact brief that was prepared during the peak tourist season in the summer of 2025, and it concluded that development will not impact traffic operations in the area. Administration reviewed this brief and agrees with the recommendation. The proposal does propose on-site parking spaces, and parking spaces are dedicated to the motel as well as the tenants of the dwelling units, as well as their visitors. And there's also dedicated barrier-free spaces. With respects to the minimum parking, the proposal does meet the minimum requirements under the zoning bylaw. In the zoning bylaw, there are regulations respecting reducing parking with regards to any additions of bicycle parking. So in this case, 35 parking spaces is the minimum required. However, the applicant has provided 10 bicycle parking spaces, and therefore, for each 4 parking spaces, the zoning bylaw allows a reduction of 1 parking space. So the minimum required parking in this instance is 33, and 33 parking spaces have been provided. With respects to the scale of the building and its compatibility with neighboring land uses, the Colchester Secondary Plan does allow a 3-story building, which is what is proposed. The increase in building height is only required to accommodate that architectural feature, which is a parapet along the side of the building, but it will not add any additional stories to the building. The building is located towards the County Road 50 street front, which is away from any lot line shared by neighboring residential uses. And the property and the parking area will also be screened by a fence along the entire perimeter of the property to ensure buffering and no adverse impacts from the parking area. And finally, with respects to concerns regarding the commercial use, it is noted that the rezoning will not just permit motel uses. It will actually permit a variety of commercial uses. So for example, the proposed zoning of C13 will allow restaurants, will allow retail stores, it will allow business and medical offices. So in the future, if market conditions change and motel units are no longer feasible, the use of that commercial space can be converted to any of the proposed, any of the permitted commercial uses without a rezoning. Having reviewed the material that has been submitted by the applicant and having considered the comments made at the public meeting of April 27th, it is administration's recommendation that bylaw 2541 should be approved for 2 readings tonight for the reasons set out in our report. I am available for any questions, as is Director Chadwick. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boer. Now we will go to our delegate. Ooh, our first ever delegate here. Come on up, Yana. Just sit up there and you get to press the mic and you have 5 minutes. So welcome.
First, let me begin by congratulating all of you for these beautiful chambers. I think it's a sign of good things to come for Essex. My name is Yana Manolakis, and I'm a resident of Ward 3. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak today, particularly regarding the motel component of this mixed-use proposal. We fully understand that the province is driving intensification and that additional residential units align with that direction. Our concern is not with intensification itself. Our concern is with the introduction of a small motel and the long-term impacts that can arise when these types of developments are approved without clear municipal standards. We want to be very clear. We're not opposed to motels or tourism oriented accommodations. Tourism, in fact, is an important part of Colchester's identity. Our goal is simply to ensure that any motel or hotel is well managed, compatible with the character of the community, and protective of residents' safety, comfort, and quality of life. To that end, we are asking council to consider developing guidelines which we believe are a helpful tool in achieving that aim. As a bit of background on us, we retired to Essex 3 years ago from Vaughan, where we spent years as homeowners dealing with inappropriate infill proposals that steadily eroded the character of what was once a beautiful, cohesive community. Several of those proposals, in fact, escalated into LPAT hearings. Despite Vaughan's strong bylaws, similar in many ways to Essex's, developers leaned heavily on legal teams and provincial policy to push the intensification that was often out of scale or out of character with the neighborhood. Eventually, Vaughan Council recognized the problem and adopted development guidelines to prevent these conflicts before they reached costly tribunals. And while Vaughan and Essex are different, the principle is the same. Guidelines can be an essential tool for shaping growth rather than reacting to it. They protect residents, support responsible developers, and reduce disputes with LPAT. That experience is why we are here today. You have already heard many of the site-specific concerns from other residents, and we share some of them. We won't repeat them today. Instead, we want to speak to the broader issue, the need to clear protective guidelines for motel and hotel development in Colchester and across Essex. Essex has no motel or hotel development guidelines today. Everything is handled through general zoning on a case-by-case basis. We simply today are asking council to create a clear, proactive framework so proposals are consistent, viable, and aligned with Colchester's character. Just as an aside, Niagara-on-the-Lake has a small village called St. David's. They actually created an urban design plan, which is very specific and very similar to Colchester. Without such guidelines, small incremental developments can accumulate into what we saw elsewhere, uncoordinated growth that slowly changes the character of a community. In some Ontario towns, this has resulted in what residents describe as motel blight, where a series of small, aging, or poorly planned motels create long-term challenges for neighborhood cohesion, safety, and municipal services. We're not suggesting that Colchester is heading in that direction today. In fact, Colchester is a boutique tourism area, not a high-volume strip, but that is exactly why now is the right moment to put guardrails in place. Guidelines would ensure the future proposals match the quality, scale, and character that residents expect and that the tourism sector depends on. Guidelines would put council firmly in the driver's seat. They would allow you to define the look, scale, and operational expectations for future motel or hotel proposals, ensuring they support tourism without compromising community character. I'm happy to share with you both the Vaughan guidelines as well as the St. David's plan as well. Turning to the specific proposal before you, an 8-unit motel presents real economic and operational risks. Industry benchmarks show that very small motels struggle with staffing, maintenance, and year-round occupancy. With a strong competitor like the Grove operating next door, the risk of business failure increases. A struggling motel benefits no one, not the owner, not the community, and not the tourism brand that Essex had worked hard to build. Colchester is a rare and beautiful place. Essex as a whole is unique in its character, its waterfront, and its sense of community. You have an opportunity now to shape how this area grows rather than reacting to proposals one at a time. We are simply asking council to consider initiating the development of these guidelines now before more proposals come forward. Some of the guidelines you might consider, just to give you a sense.
One moment there, Yana, I just, we need a motion if we're going to continue. Councillor Verbeek, Councillor Mady, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, your time is extended.
Thank you. I just wanted to share with you some of my ideas regarding of what might be in those guidelines. Things that might prevent tiny or non-viable motels and oversized, on the other end of the spectrum, oversized giant motel chains. You need to develop a minimum number of units for economic viability. Of course, maximum height, limits on continuous building length, requirements for porches, balconies, and facade breaks. There's also the notion of architectural and design requirements. I've heard that there's some folks who are not too keen about the current design put forward. There's also lighting standards you might include in those guidelines, lighting standards that prevent glare and protect dark skies. There's also site layout and compatibility, operational standards. What about on-site management or 24/7 contact requirement? Is someone going to be available when guests are on board and things don't go the way they are expected? There's tourism alignment issues, alignment with the wineries, cycling and waterfront tourism strategies, economic viability, what is the minimum unit count for viability, and of course, the environmental and servicing requirement, stormwater management standards, energy efficient building requirements, EV charging readiness. These are all captured to some degree in your OP and your bylaws, but I think these guidelines will enhance that, and I think will help developers understand where they're heading within Essex. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming and speaking to us tonight. So I heard a couple questions, so I will go to administration to answer the question on design and development guidelines for motels. Director Chadwick?
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, through you to council and certainly to our delegate. Welcome.
Thank you.
Some really great comments and also I think some exciting opportunity here. So we are in the midst of an official plan project, and as a part of the new official plan project, we also have what we consider a mini official plan, the Colchester Secondary Plan. And so in the Colchester Secondary Plan, we have strong policies surrounding land use, but also certain types of land uses. We encourage you to be a part of the, we'll call it the tail end of the project. It has been ongoing for quite some time. In fact, council directed us to go back to the drawing table on the Colchester Secondary Plan about 1.5 years ago. So we're in the midst of finalizing, we'll call it the second draft of the CSP. If you would like to take a peek at the current draft, it is available on our project website. You can just do a search on essex.ca for official plan project and take a peek at some of those policies. We also have to be presented to council that new draft. We met with the focus group, the Colchester focus group, once again. So 2 focus groups sessions or workshops with the focus group where we talked about a lot about where we wanted to head in terms of policies. So take a peek at that. If you have any suggestions within the Colchester Secondary Plan, it is still a draft, and we encourage you to be involved to provide us with your feedback. And I will pass the floor on to Manager Jabour if she has anything to add on to that, but I think those are some great comments.
Mr. Bohr, Director Chadwick was asking if you had anything else to add on our delegates' comments.
Thank you. And through the mayor, I don't. I think Ms. Chadwick has summarized very well the progress that we're making on the new official plan, which will include enhanced urban design guidelines for Colchester.
Okay, so a question is, if we pass the zoning tonight or a couple readings tonight and another reading at another meeting, would we then be able to go back and create development standards like the delegates talking about for a motel and apply it? Director Chadwick?
Thank you once again, Mayor Bondi. So at this point, if council directs administration to impose specific urban design guidelines in Colchester or throughout the municipality for hotel and motel units, and if this particular development has gone to the building permit stage, then we would not be able to retroactively impose those conditions. However, this project is subject to the Colchester secondary plan and must conform to the policies in the CSP. We have provided the developer with policies for the second draft of the CSP in the hopes that council will support. Certainly will continue to work through site plan control. So at this point, site plan control has not been approved. And so if, for example, something comes out of the CSP that's substantially different, then we would be able to impose that at time of building permit. Lastly, council directed administration through the budget process to complete urban design guidelines specifically for Essex and Harrow only. And so we are just about to initiate that project. If council directs administration otherwise, then I would defer to council to make that direction to expand the scope. But at this point, budget has only been approved by council for those two downtowns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm wondering if you could send your comments in to planning, because tonight we're looking to have a couple readings, not the final reading. Mr. Wing on Lee, I'm not sure if you are able to answer any of the concerns from the delegate. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. So I appreciate, the delegation's comment on whether we need a motel or not. The creation of a motel there is the only alternative right now, because we don't know whether there's any demand for any commercial space at this moment at that location. So, and then due to the limitation of the parking space, we just think that the small hotel operation is the only viable entity that is able to meet the planning requirement for the zoning destination. Okay, that's one thing. And we thank you for people's concern about our viability. Yes, probably it is a challenge, but we once we decide on this, I think we'll take the challenge and see what turn out. If the motel operation, is unsuccessful, then we can probably hopefully by that time, with more people living in Colchester, and then probably we can now convert the space into other commercial use, like retail, the doctor's office, or the convenience store, or whatever. That's what I can comment at this point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'll turn it over to council if they have questions for our administration, the delegate, or the developer. Councillor Allard, then Councillor Verbeek.
Thank you. Through the chair. This is to Manager Jabor. You had spoke about something on the third floor being different than it's not a regular third floor for the apartments to, occupy. You said it was something different.
Thank you. Through the mayor, if I may.
Mr. Bohr?
Thank you. Through the mayor, to Councillor Allard. I had spoken about an increase to the building height from 10 meters to 11.28 meters as a result of an architectural feature. So it's called a parapet. It's on the side of the building, and it's just an architectural feature that is like a wall, but it jots out. So that's what I was referring to in terms of what was making the building height more than 10 meters. It's just that feature.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Verbeek.
Thanks. Through the mayor. So I just have a few questions for Mr. Wing. I guess I'll state them and then you can answer them together. I do really like this development. I have a couple concerns. I worry about the parking. For starters, I'm hearing 34 or 33 now, but in the report it says 34. And I was a little bit leery about that. It would be tight. And my concern is if the motel, we've heard from the start that you may, at some point, not use it as a motel if it doesn't fly. Would there then be enough parking? And I guess this would be to Director Chadwick after, if this was converted to retail or such, would there be enough parking then, if it was used other than as a motel? But also, full-time staff at the motel, like a management at the desk, is that how the operation will run, or will it be more like online booking and, like person free? Also, yes, do you intend for there to be management on site? And are you going to be like the landlord, through, of course, a management firm or something, but are you going to be the landlord for this project, or do you intend to sell it after completion? That's it for now.
Thank you, Councillor Wilbert. For the parking issues, I think we have, as what Rita has just said, we should have complied all the zoning requirement. It is in full compliance with the parking bylaws. As with the management of the motel, there is a lot of new technology these days, like crowd beds and so on, which can help us to use the new technology and also AI application to manage the hotel. But one thing for sure, we are going to have a company, a management company, who will be responsible for managing not only the motel, but remember, we have an apartment of 18 units there. So we will have, a management company. Very likely, we are going to have a warden who will be living in the apartment and take care of the apartment as well as the motel operation. So please be rest assured that anybody who is not behaving well at the motel or the apartment will be under our microscope, under our radar. So I believe that there are a lot of people may worry about the welcome behavior by some of the hotel guests, and I have noticed that concern, and then that's why we're going to have some kind of a on-site warden, living there to make sure that everything is under order, is not going to disrupt of the life of the neighbors around the property. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. My questions were actually very similar to Councillor Verbeek's, so thank you for asking them. I too am concerned that there's only 33 or 34 parking spaces, especially if you consider cleaning staff that are going to have to go into the motel to clean. Where do we plan on having cleaning staff park? And then the manager obviously will have their own parking space if the manager of the hotel or whoever's running the front desk is a resident there. But I also dislike, with Colchester already being already having parking issues, removing 2 parking spaces because we're gonna have bicycles. No one in Colchester is bicycling to work. I think that is missing the mark of the community. You might have some people who want to rent bicycles while they're visiting, but nobody's using bicycles in December to get to and from work. They do need a vehicle. So to remove 2 parking spaces because you're going to put 10 bicycle parking is missing the mark on this project. Actually, I think that whole section of our bylaw misses the mark in the municipality of Essex. So I do think our council does need to take a look at that, but that really concerns me. We're down 2 parking spaces, possibly 3 for cleaning staff in an already parking sensitive community.
Thank you, Councillor McGuire, please. I have Councillor Mady and then Councillor Guerin.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Yeah, I had two big concerns with this. I've been hearing a whole bunch of concerns about these two topics. One is definitely parking. The second is the loss of commercial space by using a mixed use unit like this and then allowing residential units on the ground floor. I have a problem with. So I think first, my first question would be the maybe this, I like the guidelines. Maybe some guideline deviations are being a little bit downplayed here. Looks like in the report, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we already reduced the landscape gateway setback for Jackson Street to allow for more parking. It looks like we also reduced some frontage landscape. I'm going to guess again to try to get some more parking spots. And then we allow residential units on the ground floor. I think that we're going to have a huge problem, and it's been commented a couple times, if the hotel doesn't work, which when we take a look at the answer that was given to us, the hotel is only one parking spot. So it doesn't even meet our bylaw of 1.25 or 1.5 parking spots. And we try to use those as something else as residential or something, then we're going to be even worse in the parking. And we've already given up all this possible space that we could add parking on that piece of property. So I think parking is a huge problem. Was that correct?
Through you, Mayor Bondi, to a few councillors pertaining, comments pertaining to parking. And I will defer to Manager Jabour to add on as required, particularly related to the landscaping elements. So first and foremost, we can't predict what uses will be proposed, if any, for the conversion of any of these motel units down the road. So today, I mean, I can share with you that the parking requirements vary by use. A personal service shop or a personal service use may require less than a restaurant, for example. So it's very difficult to even determine at this point. Also, we would be at risk for determining even if there are deficiencies when technically today there are none. So it is important, though, if there is a conversion, that the conversion takes rather a permit be applied for through the building department, where a zoning review is to take place. And that includes, of course, a parking requirement. And if it does not meet the parking requirement, for any reason, then it would be subject to a committee of adjustment approval through the minor variance process. Again, the requirements vary. Some uses require a little, and some uses require several more. As far as the bicycle spaces, that is a regulation in our zoning bylaw that is not used often. It is not something that we have encountered very often during zoning review, site plan control. It is an initiative that a prior council did determine as a cycling community, particularly in Colchester, and particularly in this use for the motel units. If visitors are coming and taking an Uber, for example, from the train station or wherever, that if bicycles are going to be rented, that it would be an encouragement. Councillor Moody, was there something I missed regarding parking? I think we're good for parking. I'm going to pass the floor, if I may, Mayor Bondi, to Manager Jabour to chat a little bit about the landscaping elements. Thank you.
Go ahead, Rita.
Thank you. Through the mayor. So to add on to Director Chadwick's points, there were comments made regarding the building orientation from County Road 50, as well as landscaping requirements from Jackson Street. So the Colchester Secondary Plan does have a section on Main Street design guidelines, and it details guidelines for how buildings along that Main Street should be oriented and how properties should be developed. They are policies in our official plan. They're not regulations in our zoning bylaw, so they don't require any specific amendment from the zoning bylaw. But with respects to building orientation, the Main Street design guidelines do say that buildings should be set back 1 meter or more from the right of way on County Road 50. And this building in particular is going to be oriented towards the street, and it will have a setback that's more than 1 meter from County Road 50. So it complies with that design standard. With respects to landscaped building entrances, the design guidelines do state that landscape building entrances on Jackson Street should be of 6 meters, and they should be provided to provide or create a gateway to the waterfront. So with respects to this development, they are providing a landscaped entrance of 3.5 meters, so a little bit less than what the official plan prescribes. But they are providing a landscape entrance, and there's still going to be a clear waterfront vista. There's going to be no building there that would obscure that vista. However, that reduction in landscape entrance is required to permit more parking. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yeah, so we're used up all of our possible real estate for parking, and we don't have enough parking, and we won't have the ability to add more parking if we need more parking in the future. That's a big concern. The second part of this now is the commercial spot. Is there any other main streets where we're allowing residential units on the main floor? And can we get an idea of where they're at?
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Yes, there are. So specifically, for example, within Essex Center, within Harrow as well, the applicants would be required to amend or seek an application to amend the zoning bylaw to permit, ground floor residential. We have an example tonight, ironically, another application where residential is being sought on the main floor. So it is within a Main Street site specific. If that answers your question, Rita, please feel free to chime in as well.
Yes, thank you through the chair. Thank you. Just to add to Director Chadwick's points, yes, in the zoning bylaw, they're not permitted as of right, but they are permitted through a minor variance or a zoning bylaw amendment. And there have been a few applications in the past to permit residential uses on the ground level. I want to add that in most cases, they're in the rear of the building, so they don't have a street presence. In downtowns, whether it's in Colchester, Harrow, or Essex, we want to maintain a commercial street presence. So for example, in this particular case, the developer has proposed dwelling units on the ground level, but they're oriented to the rear of the building. And in order to ensure that they will be in the rear of the building, we have proposed through the bylaw zoning regulations that require that. And we've actually also put a cap on how much floor space on the ground level can be dedicated to dwelling units to ensure that the front face of the building facing County Road 50 is commercial in nature. It has that commercial presence, and to ensure that the ground level is not absorbed by residential uses.
Okay, thank you. I have Councillor Guerin.
Thank you through the mayor. Yeah, so just a couple of comments to Rita's last one on ground floor residential and commercial spaces. We've done 50-50. We've done rear. We've also had an example right here in Ward 1 where it's right on the storefront on the street as well. So we've done it site specific. And we did it for a reason, because housing and people looking for a place to live, and we had commercial spaces that were sitting there, and we had developers or owners of the properties that couldn't rent them. I mean, commercial has changed quite a bit, guys. I mean, especially since COVID. I mean, you've got Amazon. There's so many ways. People are doing hybrid. Employees are working from home. Less people are going into brick and mortar. So we do have some surplus properties. We do have some people who own properties that are commercial and they just can't get anyone to use them. So I think with times we're changing a little bit, and that's why you're starting to see a lot of times the developers coming to us and ask for stuff like that. When it comes to the parking, I do hear concerns about parking, but I never hear anyone from the council side of the table say, I'm concerned about parking and I think there should be this many spots. Like we say like 34 spaces. Are we saying there should be 40, should be 42? Who knows what the right number is? We've got an arena downtown there in Essex here that doesn't have near enough parking. I mean, we're never going to have enough parking. So if council's the hang-up's going to be parking and only parking, then make some recommendations to the builder, to administration of what you think that number is going to be. I mean, I remember not too long ago that Essex was begging for development, literally begging people to develop. Now we have people that want to develop, and we have hangups for one reason or another. And it's fine to have concerns about certain things, but we should be working with the developer, and helping our administration get to a point where we're all satisfied that we can not hold up the development and get stuff built. I mean, nothing says don't build in Essex than, constantly coming back to the council table and saying, this is a problem, that's a problem, this is a problem. Even when administration and the county and everyone else is on board with it, we still have issues with it. So that's my little beef on it. I really don't have anything against the development. I don't live in Ward 3. I'm not going to say that it won't support another motel usage in there, because I really don't know if it will or not. Hopefully the developer who spent $1 million has done his due diligence and done his homework and has that answer. Only he will know, like, if that's enough parking, if it's going to work or not work. So, I mean, I'm in support of getting him to where he wants to get to. And like I say, if parking is a big issue for council, then we do have a standard in place. We do have a bylaw in place. And we have the authority to change that if we want to change it. So change it instead of just making comments, parking.
Thank you, Councillor Guerin. I have Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Kind of wished I would have went before Joe. No. No, so for me, yeah, I do. I hear what you're saying about the parking issue. It's just out there, it's a unique situation. I find the parking in the whole area is a bit of a problem. Not that area in particular in the whole is this developer's issue. So I understand, and I can concur that I do have some concerns with it. I would like to see I mean, I would like to have seen more. I don't know how many more we would need. I'm like you. I don't know. Our bylaw says that he meets it, so I can't really argue that point. I'm not a guy who supports removal of commercial property on the main floor. I voted against that every time we've done it. I do see there's a bit of a compromise here where we're keeping some commercial on the main floor, so that's somewhat of a win. I think that's something that I could probably be supportive of. It's not a complete removal of our commercial industry. However, I'm wondering if you could speak to Ms. or Ms. Jabor, whoever, or Reed, about the rear yard setback, reducing it from like 25 feet to 10 feet. And that's a big wall for those residents in the back to have to look at now. That's going to be right up abutting their property line. And just wondering if you could maybe touch on that. And then I just had a couple other questions, because I know in some areas we do have, like in our core, you can build right to the property line. So it's a much different setting because you're in a commercial area and it's all commercial. So you're not necessarily intruding on your neighbors, where this is a slightly different situation. We do have neighbors in the backyard, and reducing that setback gives me some pause for those neighbors and the fact that they now will have a wall facing them. So if you could speak to some of those, I might have one more.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for your question. We'll go to Mr. Bohr for that rear yard setback.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. So in this case, the rear yard lot line, or the rear lot line, is actually the lot line that's between the Grove Motel property and this property. The way a rear lot line is defined is that it's the farthest lot line from the front lot line, and the front lot line on this property is actually the lot line that abuts Jackson Street. So this building, even though it's going to be reduced from 7.5 meters to 2.87 meters from the rear lot line, is actually not impacting any residential properties by being any closer.
Thank you. That clears that question up for me completely. Thank you very much.
Councillor Verbeek.
Okay, and through the chair, just to be clear, I'm supporting both readings tonight. I know there's a third to come, so any kinks that need to be worked out will be, but the parking, the reason you're hearing so much from so many of us is because it is an issue down there. And if there's not enough space on this property, the residents or the motel visitors are going to use up our limited municipal parking along the waterfront. So that's where the concern comes from. If it fills up, my other concern is that if the motel aspect isn't fully supported and Mr. Wing puts in some, gym facility that I think would work perfect in that area, or converts to a restaurant area, therein lies the more concern about the parking, because that could be a roadblock to changing the use of the facility. I wonder if, again, I'm supporting it as it is, but I wonder if at some point, maybe Ms. Jabor they could look at moving the bike spaces. Could they go onto one of the grassy areas, and wouldn't that open up one or two more spots if and when needed?
Thank you, Councillor Verbeek. Ms. Jabor?
Yes, thank you through the chair. So during site plan, we work to ensure that the applicant is meeting the minimum requirements of the zoning bylaw for the proposed use. So if in the future the use of those motel units changes or is proposed to be changed to another commercial use, we do have parking standards for other types of commercial uses, and we will reassess at that time. And if there has to be changes to the parking layout, then we will work with the applicant on making the necessary amendments to the site plan.
Okay, thank you. Healthy discussion, council. What is the will of council tonight? I just want to point out that if we do one reading, it's a simple majority. If we do two readings, it is it's the 2/3. So it would be 6. So I'm looking to see if there is a motion from council. Councillor Verbeek, and then.
I can't get back to the recommendation fast enough here. I believe it's that we pass the first and second reading. And I move that.
Okay, moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor McGuire Blaze. So I'm not sure if anybody wants comments to the motion. Okay, all in favor of the motion? That is 5. 5. Okay, so that the motion has failed. So we need a motion to have one reading. Councillor McGuire Blaze.
Do I need to say it? It's motion for one reading.
Okay, motion for one reading, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions, comments to the motion? Councillor Guerin?
If it fails, what happens?
CAO Drusevich?
Through the chair, we would look for further direction from council, but we would probably in the interim schedule a closed meeting so we could provide legal advice as well.
Okay, well, I'll speak to the motion. I'm very comfortable passing one reading. There was a lot of comments here tonight that are new. I've never heard of motel guidelines. I want to take that into consideration. I'd actually like to take some of the feedback tonight, potentially meet with the CAO, the Director of Development Services, and the developer in the interim before the next reading. I think there may be a little bit more wiggle room that we could do. There are some valid concerns that were raised tonight, and I'd like us to move forward with it. I do want to see development on this property. I do believe it's suited for development, but I do believe there are some other issues that we could talk about. I wasn't aware of other best practices in other communities. Okay, at this point, all in favor? And that is 6. So that passes. Thank you. Thank you. I just have a housekeeping item. If you are in the audience, it just came to my realization that we don't have access to the bathroom. We do. You don't. If you need to go to the bathroom, maybe just mudge our manager, Mark Tutorla, on the end, because if you try to go to the bathroom in the other part of our building, you can't get in. So we want to make sure that you have access. So just give Mark a little nudge. I'm sorry. We're working out some kinks and I just thought of it as somebody who goes to the bathroom every 45 minutes. Okay. Okay, moving on to site-specific official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for 47 Wilson. Ms. Jabor.
Thank you, and through the mayor. A quick recap for council and members of the public on the application and the purpose of the bylaws and the reports tonight. Bylaw 2539 and 2540 is regarding an application for a site-specific official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for the lands located at 47 Wilson Avenue in the Essex Center. The amendments are required to allow for the redevelopment of the lands for residential uses, specifically apartment buildings and townhome dwelling units. Bylaw 2540, which is the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, also seeks to add site-specific lot and building zoning regulations, such as an increase in building height from 18 meters to 22 meters to a maximum of 6 stories for an apartment building, an increase to the maximum permitted lot coverage for the site from 35% to 50%, and reductions in the distances between a residential building and a lot line shared with a neighboring use, such as a side lot line or a rear lot line. A public meeting was held on April 27th to hear comments from the public, those circulated agencies, and council members concerning the proposal. And the proposal has also been amended following the public meeting. In response to comments received at the public meeting, specifically about parking and traffic concerns, the applicant has prepared a site plan for an alternate development option that consists of 2 5-story apartment buildings with 63 units in each of those buildings instead of the 30 townhome dwelling units and the apartment building. For both concepts, the original and the alternate, the total number of dwelling units remains unchanged. It is 126 units, whether it's an apartment building and 30 townhomes or whether it's 2 apartment buildings. In the alternate option, though, 194 parking spaces are proposed, and this adds an additional 18 parking spaces to the original concepts, and it also reduces the number of accesses from 3 to just 2. For the alternate site plan to work, there does need to be a slight reduction in the minimum rear yard setback between that second apartment building that will replace the townhome dwellings and the residential dwelling lot at 101 Wilson Avenue. That setback is proposed to be reduced by 0.5 meters. So where typically a minimum setback of 7.5 meters is required between an apartment building and a rear lot line, the proposal and the alternate development option is 7 meters. However, we've been advised by the applicant and their agent that should a second apartment building be constructed, there would be no windows or balconies on that side of the apartment building which faces 101 Wilson Avenue. And there would also be fencing and trees proposed for additional buffering along that lot line. The concerns raised at the public meeting related to the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment were mainly regarding the loss of the commercial land. Because this is an official plan amendment, it does propose to convert commercial land uses to residential land uses. There were concerns about the adequacy of the proposed parking area and the impact of the proposed development on the road network. And there were also concerns about the scale and character of the proposed residential buildings. So in response to those concerns, specifically about the loss of commercial land, it has been determined through the County of Essex's land needs assessment that the town of Essex actually has a surplus of commercially designated lands for the next 25 to 30-year planning horizon. However, the town is required under county policy to accommodate 30% of new residential development through intensification, which is proposed tonight, to meet the residential demand of the town of Essex. So since the site is not located along the main downtown corridor along Talbot Street, and there are predominantly residential uses along Wilson Avenue and within that vicinity, these lands are an appropriate location for residential intensification proposals. In response to concerns about the development's impact on parking and traffic, there was a traffic impact statement that was prepared and submitted as part of this application to assess the impacts of development on traffic volumes and intersections and identify any modifications to traffic controls or infrastructure to mitigate those impacts. The study concluded that there were some signal timing adjustments that were required at some intersections. There was minimal delay, though, in queuing projected at stop-controlled intersections. Administration did review the traffic impact statement, and they agree with its conclusions. And additionally, the proposed parking does comply with the minimum requirements of the zoning bylaw for multi-unit dwellings and for townhome dwellings. And finally, with respects to the scale of the building and its compatibility with neighboring land uses, there has been an amendment to the proposal following the public planning meeting to the maximum building height. It was originally proposed as 24 meters, which is an increase from 18 meters to 7 stories. But the applicant has suggested an amendment which would lower that to 22 meters instead of 24 meters to a maximum of 6 stories. There was also an urban design brief that was prepared by the applicant and submitted to demonstrate how the proposed development has considered the town's existing urban design guidelines and other policies as part of site design. And that brief has concluded that the development uses appropriate setbacks, building scale and form, and architectural elements that are compatible with the neighborhood and upholds principles of good urban design. Administration has reviewed that brief and agrees with its conclusions. The brief was also reviewed by the applicant's agents in response to this alternate development option, and their conclusions remain unchanged with respects to urban design. Having reviewed the materials submitted with the application and having considered the comments made at the public meeting of April 27th, it is administration's recommendation that bylaws 2539 for the official plan amendment and 2540 for the zoning bylaw amendment be approved for 2 readings tonight for the reasons set out in our report. And I remain available for questions as does Director Chadwick. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jabor. Any representatives from the developers wish to speak? Come on up. Welcome, Ahmad. You have 5 minutes, and then if you can hang around in case council has any questions. Welcome.
Sure. Good evening, Your Worship, councilors, respectful councilors and administration, other delegates in the room. I didn't have the honor to attend last meeting, but I have the honor to be one of the first few people at this room. It's beautiful. Congratulations. Last meeting, I had an emergency. I was driving back, so I watched the meeting on YouTube. I didn't get a chance to talk to and address some issues. Actually, when I heard about the development online, I decided maybe it's not the right development if people are not excited about it. I just want to give you a brief history about how we came to town, other than the first storm I hit in Windsor and the second one today. Around 4 years ago, when the demand for housing, as we all know, was at its height and peak, we came to Essex and we tried to make as much connections as possible with the residents, with the administration, with the councilors to know, as a developer in town, what could we do that we could build the community together and not just one project and go. And throughout so many meetings back and forth and different investments that we did in town, specifically when it came to development of construction of buildings and condos and apartments. The issue was different than other municipalities because between Essex, the town of Essex here, between Colchester and Harrow, there was no corridor of high-rise buildings or mid-rise buildings, as we call them in the area here. So it's always, you don't know where to start when you don't have certain directions. But luckily, in time and with consultation with parties involved, we realized that everybody wasn't excited about letting go of, whether agricultural land or whether land that's obviously, whether it's industrial or anything. We were looking for an area where there's a demand for what we're going to build. As part of building part of the community together, we were directed by advice into looking at infills properties. Let's look at something that's not doing well in town, and you guys develop it or redevelop it to be partners in what we do. And frankly, we came to 47 Wilson by that way. We were looking for an infill property. So we came in for over $3 million investment on this property. We came into over $1 million of cleaning polluted land between demolition of existing buildings that I assure you were not mom and pop's shops that we came down and we took them from the industry. That was a dead piece of land with $1 million worth of pollution on it. We came, we invested in Essex, we cleaned up that land, and we hoped to still catch the wave of development with the market that was going on. Market changed, but developers don't stay at home. We find a solution. Well, this wasn't going to be a condo, maybe we'll work on an apartment. But also before we got to that number of units that we have today, even at the time when we picked that location, and the previous management, our company, were looking at doing 200 units on that property. So we came from 200 units to the 96 units building that we spoke about last time at the meeting. Dylan was representing us. And we were looking at doing the townhomes next door. Now, with what I heard in that meeting and the concerns that people had, at the end of the day, I'm a resident of Windsor, Essex County. I appreciate the relationship I want to make in the neighborhood. These will be our tenants or our buyers. These will be friends. If they're not friends from here, they're friends from different area of business that we're in. And we're trying to just make friendship and extend our hand to do better development. With your guidance and with the enthusiasm that we saw in the neighborhood, I'm not disappointed. I'm maybe disappointed that we read the community wrong. And we were more comfortable in thinking that, we're turning this piece of land that's really of no use at the time and doing something with it. But I just wanted to come here today to just clarify. When we heard you loud and clear. We may have said, the study was supporting this, and that's another study supports this, and this happened here. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking to work with everybody. The buildings that we had, one of them was 96 units, and the townhomes next to it, there were a lot of concerns about the shape, what we're going to do, how they're going to be busy, is there going to be parking, what's going to change with the parking. We came down to a decision to make this project simpler and more acceptable and more easy on the eye, is to have two smaller buildings of 60 some units max.
Let me just pause you for 1 second. Councilor McGuire Blaze, Councilor Verbeek, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. You have another 5 minutes.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't realize. Thank you. Again, so we are looking at doing 63 units in each building. Obviously, one building will be built in a phase one, going to a phase two if the demand is the same. It could be an apartment building, that could be possibly a condo. There could be possibly different things as we go. But do we know that the area in Essex needs an apartment building? I'm not saying it needs an apartment building, that's the only way to live. But if we wanted to make business happen downtown and we wanted to bring more business to downtown, this is the chicken and the egg story. If we don't bring residents and intensify residential neighborhoods, you're not going to get a lot of the commercial people that are going to support it, and vice versa. We're trying to do what we would have liked in our neighborhoods. We think going down from what we had before in terms of number of units, size of the building. The 7-story, I told you that was never going to be the case. We were just looking at, if we do the 6-story, if we need some height within the units themselves, that's what we were hoping to attend. Frankly, at this point, I'm hoping to attend a 5-story building without going to the 6, but we're asking for the 6 because frankly and honestly, at this point and the money that was spent on this property, it will not be feasible to do less than what we have in number of units. I was speaking to Jake from Dylan's about the time frame of when did we buy this property. And I'm just saying, at the time when we purchased this property, there was an option for us to buy another property in Windsor at the same time. That property in Windsor right now is rented. And we are here to still look at going forward with this. There's nothing wrong with that. I just hope things become a bit easier and understand that we're trying our best to accommodate whatever the neighborhood needs, whatever the town needs. But there's a limit for the developer that once you cross it, it's not feasible anymore. To tell you that we could do now commercial on the main floor, I'll tell you that will be bringing more traffic and more issues with parking. I hope the 5 to 6 stories at the 126 units for this property is a better number for you to consider, and I appreciate the time you gave me today.
Thank you. Maybe just stay there in case members of council have questions. I have Deputy Mayor Shepley, then Councilor McGuire Blaze.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. It's fantastic. It was, you heard the residents and you heard some of our comments, and I like what you're presenting now. I think it'll work. I think the Weston apartment's full and there's a waiting list. I think you do a building, you'll probably fill it up, and you'll probably fill the second one too. I like what you're doing, and I like what you're saying too. Like this will help the downtown core. I'm a big proponent against not giving up commercial lands. In this case, I will support this because I think with what you're bringing in, the apartments will support downtown. It's a walking distance. It does check everything off for me. So for that, I'll support it. And I think it has that trickle down effect. I think this allows our seniors to sell their homes, downsize, move into an apartment possibly, and then that home becomes available and so on and so forth. That trickle down housing effect will be good for us and good for the town. So I think I'll support this tonight. And I think that I'm really glad that you listened to what the concerns were. That shows a lot about you and as a company as well. And I have been through your buildings. You build a nice building, and it'll look nice in this town when you're done. That's my comments.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilor McGuire Blaze.
Thanks to the chair. I think the deputy mayor was reading my mind. I had the same comments it was very clear to me when I was reading the new proposal that you listened to what the residents had to say, you listened to what council had to say, you took it back and you made the necessary changes. I am in full support of this. If I could read it in 3 readings and get it done faster for you, that's what I would do tonight. 2 readings I will pass, but I also agree with Deputy Mayor. I've said it before. I think this will only intensify our core. It'll only help our businesses. I think it's something that is needed in the town of Essex. I would love to see one of those units as a condo if that's what the market is shifting towards. I think ownership is still important for people. So it would be really nice to see one building as an apartment unit, one building as a condo. But I think this is an excellent area. I love that you took into consideration the neighborhood in ensuring that there will be no windows on the one side of the property to protect the neighbor's privacy. And I think that this is going to only intensify our Heritage Park, our amphitheater. I think it's a great spot for it. It's walkable for everything: pharmacy, grocery, hairdressers, lawyers, and shopping. So thank you very much for coming to the community of Essex. Thank you for listening to us and making the necessary changes. And I hope the rest of council can help move this along for you.
Thank you, Councilor McGuire Blaze. I have Councilor Guerin.
Thank you, Through the Mayor. Yeah, I'm in full support of it as well. I mean, I like the changes you made. I like the original concepts as well. I agree with Councilor McGuire Blaze. I hear it a lot. You won't have any issues renting these units. So the problem right now we have in Essex is inventory. People want to live in Essex. They love Essex. There's just nowhere to live in Essex, and they're having to move away from Essex, especially those that still want ownership. So I do like your comment about the condos. If you can fit that in your plan in phase 2, I mean, your money. But I do get that from a lot of residents in town looking to downsize or sell what they have now and still like the idea of having some ownership. So a condo would be great. I can see the building's up right now. It's going to be beautiful.
Thank you. As a member of the Affordable Housing Task Force, I just, and we did get some additional feedback. It's in our public comments from the last meeting to this meeting. I do know that we're developing an affordable housing strategy. It's coming to council. And we do want to try, I have to ask the question. So we do want to try to offer a range of housing, and that includes affordable and more and attainable. Is there anything, maybe to Director Chadwick, is there anything that we can do to support this development to, get 3, 4, 5 affordable units in here, and I understand the investment that you're putting into that building, taking it down, remediating the soil. I want to thank you for that. We have a couple others in mind for you around the block, but I want to thank you for that. But is there any tools or anything that we could do to help a developer build in a few affordable housing units?
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. So as a part of the official plan, there is a direction or a policy direction for affordable housing to be considered in all developments. Affordable housing, or rather housing affordability. And so this particular developer, through the planning justification report, if anyone wants some great reading material, there is a really long and detailed PJR, as well as we've also done our due diligence to look at housing affordability. Although affordable housing units at this point may not be as a part of the proposal, housing affordability has been considered, and that includes accessible units, different housing type being the rental and purpose-built rental. Also, the units having different bedrooms as well. So housing affordability was considered. I will defer to the applicant if you'd like to add on if there's any consideration for actual affordable housing units.
At this stage, it would be very difficult to, before you know the number of units that you're going to do and before you approach the right agencies. For example, right now, the only supportive agency, I mean, actually not the only, but one of the major supportive agencies of development and rentals, period, is CMHC. Now, CMHC, they have different criteria for different projects at the time of the application. Also, and this is just happened to be not maybe the time, but also municipalities, they have tons of ways to help and to be partners if we would like, and we're always willing to sit down. And obviously, we sat down so many times, and we will keep seeing ways of making things easier on the public, to whether they're new professionals or new people that just moved out of their parents' home and they want to start a new life in an apartment, or whether they're retirees and I want to be there. We want to make things easier, whether it's obviously being accessible or being more affordable, but that will take more than just the developer themselves, and we would love to talk to the town and discuss things with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll seek a mover and a seconder that the planning report and the delegation be received, and that planning bylaw 2539 be read first, second, third time and provisionally adopted on May 19th, 2026. And that bylaw 2540. Is there something?
First, not a third time.
Oh, sorry, first, second. No, oh, sorry, first, second, provisionally adopted. And that bylaw 2540 be read a first, second time and provisionally adopted on May 19th. So members of the public watching it will come back one more time for a final reading. Moved by Councilor McGuire-Blaze, Councilor Verbeek. Any questions to that motion? And for this one, we also need 2/3 to pass 2 readings. All in favor? And then carried unanimously. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Moving on to drainage, appointment of an engineer under section 78 and section 76 of the Drainage Act for the 13th Concession Center drain. Looking for a mover and a seconder that council appoint Dobbin Engineering under the Drainage Act for the 13th Concession Drain. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councilor Mady, any questions? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Appointment of an engineer under section 78 of the Drainage Act for the 5th Concession Drain. Looking for a mover and a seconder that council appoint Rude Engineering under section 78 of the Drainage Act to install a crossing in the 5th Concession Road Drain. Councilor McGuire-Blaze. Deputy Mayor Shepley. I just have a question to Director Gerard. I'm not sure. I should have asked it in advance, but I'm not sure. I feel like we do a lot of work on this 5th concession. Did we just recently do something on there? Was it bank stabilization?
Through the chair, I think what you're referencing is the work we did to the Richmond drain on the 5th concession. So it's not the same drain. So the 5th concession drain is a separate drain, but we did do bank stabilization for the Richmond drain along the 5th.
Thank you. Councilor Hammond.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor. I was looking at this particular drain doesn't run very long. And obviously I'm curious as to what it's there for and what it's actually doing. Because it really doesn't run in front of any buildings. In front of it, it's just some low-lying farm fields that are there currently. So is there a reason why this drain is there and why it's the way it is, and who does it facilitate?
Through the chair. So in order for a municipal drain to get status under the Drainage Act, it would have had to been petitioned for. I don't know the exact date of when that would have been, but a petition would have been approved to establish that drain and then create an engineer's report and an assessment schedule and everything like that. A drain doesn't need homes or buildings to be established. It can be used primarily and only for agricultural purposes, which may have been the purpose at the time. I could provide more background to council if council gave me direction on what it was established for, and I could do some research.
Yeah, I'd like to see some research done on that because I get the feeling that it is for the agriculture around there, and if we got an engineer going to assess this, can we ask him if the fill that we put in across the street is having any effect on the drainage in that area as well? Could we add that to that engineer's report?
Thank you, Councillor Hammond. I'm not sure it would be an engineered report other than Director Gerard.
Through the chair. So this is a section 78 report for a crossing over the drain. So somebody is looking for an access to their property over the 5th concession, either for agricultural purposes or a home. I don't know that exactly at the moment. The engineer's report will be determined by the engineer and in accordance with the legislative meetings, including the on-site meeting. So there is the possibility that this petitioner or the people who will receive notice from that engineer or from us that the engineer is hosting an on-site could steer the report. Any costs associated with the engineering report are borne by the people that it's assessed to. So it is important to note that any additional work aside from the crossing of the drain will be imposed by everybody that benefits from that drain.
The reason I bring that up is because I'm sure everybody remembers the concern I had when that field was being filled, and it's predominantly a floodplain whenever there's excess. So I had trouble with that. So I'd like to find out if it's causing any adverse effect on our drainage, particularly at that corner of the before everything gets to the Richmond there. Thank you.
Through the chair. So Councillor Hammond, I think I would recommend meeting with myself and Director Gerard on that. It is a separate topic from the one in the agenda. So I think we'd like to hear your concerns and we can do that in a separate meeting.
Okay, thank you, CAO Drusovic. Any other questions, comments from members of council? Looking for a mover and a seconder, right? Looking for a mover and a seconder. Councilor McGuire Blaze, Deputy Mayor Shepley, any other questions? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Legal and legislative services are transient vendor licensing, where we're looking to repeal and replace bylaw 629. You will have Director Malandrucolo just walk us through this, please.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you, just to speak to this one quickly. Transient vendor licenses and taxi cab licenses were combined in bylaw number 629. Taxi cab licenses were previously removed from this bylaw, but the wording relating to them still exists in this bylaw. So the bylaw is antiquated. So in order to update it, we've removed the transient vendor piece from this bylaw and have created a new bylaw that is specifically pointed at transient vendor licenses. What the bylaw is going to suggest is it suggests a $410 transient vendor license that has to be renewed annually or it expires. We've increased the fines for not having a transient vendor license from $125 to $500, which only makes sense since the fine was actually less than the license used to be. And then we've also accounted for a temporary license that is only in effect for a month, but is half the price of the full-time license. So this allows for things like a temporary setup of for example, a food truck venue. It allows for that to happen, but at such a cost that you would only see that being used for probably that 1 month. Otherwise, it makes sense to get an annual license anyway. But there's just some provisions in there that will allow for flexibility for things like that. Open to any other questions that council might have. This is a 2-reading bylaw, so it'll be back for final reading in June.
Thank you, Director Malandruco. Councilor McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. My concern here is the temporary license. Having a food truck only have to have a license for 1 month for $200 seems very, very low. I think that will hurt our brick and mortars, especially in the summer months, spring, when people are actually walking around. It would be really easy for a mobile unit to just set up shop in the parking lot of No Frills, sell Woodcraft Pizza, and put a few of our pizza places out of order. And they would be doing it for a lot less. And then when I emailed you, you said this would be discretionary, that we could say no. What are the rules there? How are you going to say yes or no? How can we assure our businesses that we're not going to let a wood burning stove pizza? And I'm using that because I do know that there is a similar pizza truck out there that does this. How do we let our pizza people know that we're not going to let them set up shop in No Frills for only $200 and let them make a killing?
Thank you. So through the chair, a couple things to note on that is the license is $205 for a month. Those people would not be prohibited from obtaining an annual license for $410 and doing the exact same thing for as long as they wanted to. So that's the first thing to note. Your question about the discretionary nature of the license, it's actually discretionary to the clerk. So our department, being the licensing department, would take a look at the licenses the requests that came in, and we would make a determination to whether or not it was good for the community based on what we're seeing in the community at the time and how it's going to affect the neighboring businesses.
Thanks to the chair. I understand that, but what are your criteria? Like, what is your checklist to say this is good for the community or not? What does that checklist look like?
So through the chair, the checklist, there isn't a formal checklist. The licensing department deals with licenses, multiple different licenses, and I mean the discretion is left to us to confirm that providing the license to the person who requested it is not detrimental to the neighboring businesses. It's same thing with our special occasion permits and things like that, where we make sure that we are looking at who's applying for a license and how it's going to affect the neighbors and the other people who are involved in certain sorts of processes. We don't have a firm list on it. Again, it's discretionary. It's based on past trends and how it can affect the neighborhood. But if council is looking for a list, we can. We also wanted to mention that this is something we saw neighboring municipalities do. We thought that we would put it in there in case council was interested in it. Flexibility as to the cost, flexibility as to the circumstances, completely there. Just thought it might be something that council might be interested in.
Through the chair, what I would like to see in this bylaw is something that says, we're not going to allow a competing business with one of our brick and mortars who pay taxes and have annual bills. We're not going to allow that within a radius. So we're not going to allow a pizza truck to come in and park their space within 3 kilometers of any other pizza place within the municipality of Essex. Now, if you want to come in and sell hoagies, we don't have anyone who sells hoagies in Essex. So go ahead, set up shop wherever you want. But there should be a non-compete clause for somebody who's going to come in with a temporary truck that puts our brick and mortars out of business or creates competition where they never had competition before.
Okay, thank you. I'm grateful that we're cleaning this up. This is outstanding. I also do have some concerns with the temporary, and one is if they're going to do it, they might as well just pay the $400 and do it all year if that's, because this is the problem that I see. So say they get a license and it's July 1st. And then their license expires at the end of July, but now say it's a long weekend. So they just keep it going and then we get complaints and then we tell town staff and now town staff have to go out there and enforce it. But they've already, by the time we already get out there and enforce it, they've had 2 more weekends where they've impacted local businesses. So I don't know, personally, maybe we just approve it without doing, and I like the temporary out of the box thinking. Like I want our administration to feel like they can bring us out of the box ideas that other municipalities are doing. May not work for Essex. Maybe we don't have enough businesses that are strong enough right now yet. Maybe our businesses don't want the competition. I'm not sure if this has been vetted by the chamber or the BIA. So between now and in a couple weeks, we should run this feedback by the chamber and the BIA and see how if they meet. I'm not sure if they do, but see if they have feedback. So that's mine. I'd be comfortable passing it with even eliminating the temporary. Rest of council, anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hammond.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Being in the business, I can't support this bill. I find it weak at best. I think there's a lot of provisions that need to be taken into consideration, and I'd be willing to have another meeting regarding that too.
Okay, Councillor McGuire, please.
Thanks for the chair. So I just wanted to let you know, the BIA does meet tomorrow and I can bring this to them tomorrow, which is why I didn't bring it to them before. Obviously we haven't had a meeting, so I can bring it to the BIA tomorrow and provide feedback. If we want to defer this to the next meeting, that would be great.
Thank you. It is only 2 readings right now, so we do have time to bring it to the businesses. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thank you. And through you, as a restaurant owner, I will be careful with how I address this. I think I appreciate parts of it that you've brought forward. I would love to hear what the chamber and the BIA say, because I think there's a lot of restaurants that maybe will not like to see this any easier. I don't think we have a litany of food trucks trying to come to the town of Essex that are finding that they're barred to access here. But I don't know that we want to make it easier. And hurt the potential businesses. We have the specialty permits that go on at the Fun Fest and the different events, and that brings food vendors. So the community's not unable to be exposed to those types of things. They have access to them through those special events. So I would hope that we'll defer it, or maybe do the 2 readings and not pass it until we can maybe hear a report back from the chamber or the BIA. I think that's fantastic.
Okay, Director Malandrukalo, then CAO Drusevich.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you, I did want to mention that in my 3 years here at the town, we've only had 1 transitory vendor licensing permit. We've never been asked about temporary licensing permits, and we've never been asked about another transient vendor permit. So we are really right now looking at only 1 person. This bylaw is very similar to the previous bylaw, except for the temporary permit, and then we are making stronger fines, keeping the cost the same. So I don't expect this to make any waves at all, but open to any of council's suggestions.
Through the chair. Yeah, I think this is great discussion and exactly why it's only presented for 2 readings. And if council wanted further consultation time, we could do 1 reading. But this is great discussion. And if you have further comments on things that you'd like administration to consider, I would suggest you email myself and Joe, and we can make sure those are addressed when it comes forward for other readings.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Guerin.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a question on when town hosts events and we bring in a vendor, are they excluded from having to go through the application and getting the transient licensing?
Yes, so through the chair, this only applies to people who are operating on private property, not public property. Public property goes through our CERT team, so they don't require this license.
So further than that, if a minor baseball program wants to bring in a vendor for their Day of Champions and it's on town property, that would still come through CERT, but they would need a permit.
So through the chair, they don't need a permit. They don't need this permit. They need permission from CERT, who has insurance requirements that they need to meet and other things like that. So the whole purpose of this permit is for us to know who's operating in the town and whether or not they're following the safety procedures that are required. When you're operating on town property, we do that through the CERT team, so we don't do that through this license. It's not required.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Shepley, and then I'll get a motion on the table.
Okay, just for clarification, just because I think there's some confusion. If say Canadian Tire or Foodland decided to have a vendor there, they're required to go through the same permitting process, even though it's on private property?
So through the chair, this is only for private property. This is only for a Foodland or a Canadian Tire.
So just for clarification, so nobody can buy it, like a hot dog truck can't come park out in front of our owner. You would not allow them to come park in front of our restaurants. It's just if a private property owner wanted to have it on their property. And how many do we currently have out this year? Do you know the number that we currently have? One, do you know, would you know which one that is?
So through the chair, since I've been here, there's only ever been one, and it's always only been Kona Ice, and that's it.
So then to follow up with that, the Beaver Tail trailer has been in Essex several times. No permit?
So through the chair, I've never received a complaint about a Beaver Tail trailer in Essex. If there was a reported problem complaint, then we would send our bylaw team out there.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll look for a mover and a seconder that the Legal and Legislative Services report be received and that bylaw 2499 be read first, second time, and provisionally adopted today on May 19th. Moved by Councillor Guerin, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? So you've heard our administration. If you have feedback, send it in, and this will go to the chamber and the BIA. I think we have a chamber representative in the audience. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Moving on to Legal and Legislative Services, Election Sign Bylaw, Director Malandruclo.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Moving on with our elections bylaws that are required in order to hold our election this year. We are now on to our election sign bylaw. Just a couple of quick comments on this one. The election sign bylaw requires the election signs in the town of Essex by bylaw require that a permit be issued by the clerk's department. We'll begin issuing permits under this bylaw 45 days prior to the election, so it'll begin on Friday, September 11th. We understand that some candidates are already starting to order their signs. Because of that, we're asking for this bylaw to be read 3 times tonight in order for candidates to have some clear instruction on what their sign should look like and what they need to comply with in order to receive a sign permit. One suggestion that we received from the mayor today that I'll put to council, and if council would like that, they would just need to build it into their motion. It requires that after the election, all election signs, the bylaw requires that all election signs be removed within 5 days of the election. Because of the way that this election falls on a Monday, that means that all signs would have to be removed by a Saturday. The suggestion is that we change it to 5 business days instead of 5 regular days, which would give the candidates until the following Monday in order to remove their signs. So if council's amenable to that, they can pass the motion with that amendment.
Thank you, Director Malandruclo. I'll go to members of council. Councillor Guerin.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions on it. 7.5, being not able to put a sign on a tree. Is that a tree like on a private property or a tree on municipal property you're speaking of there?
So through the chair, there is a general prohibition on any signs on municipal property. I believe this one, so no trees on municipal property because municipal property in general is generally prohibited. This, I believe, applies to private property.
So through the chair, if I have a tree on my property, I can't hang a sign from it.
Through the chair, no, it has to be on posts.
Through the chair, why would that be?
I think most of their rules and regulations in the bylaws in order to keep signs done in a uniform way without having them. So there are different other restrictions, including height of the sign, size of the sign, things like that. I think posting it on a tree might cause non-compliance to be easier. It's something that's always been in there, and I think it's consistent with other municipalities. If council is interested in signs being put on trees, we can bring that away and maybe go 2 readings today and come for our 3rd next time.
No, through the mayor. No, I was just kind of curious about it. That's all. The other one is subdivision homes. You own your property, but town has easement. Can the signs still be put on the easement part of a property?
So through the chair, there's a restriction for signs being placed on municipal property, including easements. So, but I believe every home has at least some property that's not subject to easement. We've also allowed for things like condo buildings. You're allowed to put it on your window. If there is a home that has no private property and it's a full easement, I'm not sure where that would exist. We can talk about it if you think there is somewhere where that would exist, but they can put it in their window just like the apartment building residents can do.
Through the mayor. No, I'm referring to like subdivision living. You don't own all your frontage. There's utilities, and typically we're allowing residents to cut it for sure and to care for it. I just don't want to get into a war come election time where someone's saying another candidate, your sign's too close to the sidewalk and your setback is probably 8 more feet. Well, who's drawing those lines, right? I think if we can all agree that you've cut that grass, it's up to it's 5 feet off the road or something like that. I think we can agree to that. But when you start getting that, where's your setback on your lawns? Like
So through the chair, I'll scroll down to it, but there is a section in the bylaw that gives a clear indication of the distance that the signs need to be. It cannot be within 1 meter of a curb or pavement edge. It cannot be within 1 meter of a residential property line. It cannot be within 3 meters of an industrial property line. And it can't be on a median or island located in a roadway. There's some other ones, but I think those are relevant to what you're asking.
Mayor, I think those setbacks are fine. It's just, I'm just trying to draw the line of where it becomes town property and it shouldn't be on there. Because it really doesn't spell it out in here. Well, it says can't be on town property, and that is considered town property. From the center of my road to about 35 feet is probably all town.
Yeah, so through the chair, we're gonna stick to these guidelines, those measurements. That'll keep everything clear for everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Guerin. I have Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor McGuire Blaze, and then Councillor Hammond.
I've got a few. One, the illuminated sign, I'm wondering why we wouldn't allow that in certain, like in commercial areas. I'm not saying we allow people to put light up signs in people's front yards. I think that would be probably gross to our neighbors. But I think in our commercial areas, as long as they meet the size of the sign, those regulations, I think we should allow it. It's a right that we have, that it's there. We can rent those spaces. It's available to us. I think it's something that we should at least consider, with the caveat that it stays into those commercial areas where illuminated signs are allowed. That's my first question, if you want to address that, then I'll move on.
Yeah, so through the chair, these are continuations from the previous sign bylaw. And so one of the things that the previous sign bylaw did, and I'm not sure if council is aware of it or not, but it actually prohibited billboards. And so does this one. And so when you talk about illuminated signs, I think you're talking about a billboard type sign, or you're talking about illuminating a 5-foot sign, because the largest sign that can be placed is 5 feet. So I don't know if you're illuminating a 5-foot sign or not.
I'm saying an illuminated sign within the guidelines of the size limits. So no, you can't go rent a billboard on Highway 3 and use the whole thing. You'd only be allowed to use the size that is allowed by this bylaw. I don't want to be able to contravene the bylaw by putting up an illuminated sign because it's a billboard. They still have to remain, I think they should still remain within that. I thought it was 4 feet, but 5 feet's fine with me. And I think that's fine. I believe it was 4 feet. So my next question, that's something I would like to have us look at before we complete the bylaw. I have a question on a lot to do with the sole discretion of the clerk, which is misleading information with no explanation of what you might find misleading can vary about every person around this room. And I find that that's concerning that you would be able to decide that. I doubt that we'll have that issue, but it's a concern. So it's something that should be addressed. I don't like the fact that it says in there that you're able to accrue fines to us in a sense beyond our $200 that you could then go back to our, I think it said with reasonable, you could actually attach it to our property taxes, if I read that correctly. If you had to any expense to collect or deal with our signs. There's some real concerning issues. I don't like the fact that bylaw would be able to go and remove our signs and possibly destroy it. I think that's a waste of our materials, and you maybe hang on to it, but it should not be disposed of. And I have a lot of concerns of it. It just seems very overreaching, a lot of these rules, and all the power seems to sit with the clerk's office with zero chance of appeal. And those two things, it's very strong armed and no appeal process. So I have some concerns with those issues. And then my other issue would be the height. If somebody's got a raised porch and they want to put a sign on their porch and it's above your height, I think they should be allowed to do that if they see fit. As long as they're not, again, posting on the roof of their house or things beyond that nature. I think the height limit is very restrictive. If they have an elevated porch, they should be able to have it on their elevated porch. Similarly to if I have an apartment and I want to put it in my window on the second floor, they're allowed to do that. If I want to put it on my elevated porch, I should be allowed to do the very same thing. Those are the bulk of my questions. I really want to see this one come back to us personally, but.
So through the chair, that's absolutely fine. I'm okay with that. Some of the people who asked us to push this through in this meeting are in this room and wanted this, and I'm very happy to move it forward. Did just want to make it clear though that this is not just municipal election signs. This bylaw also applies to provincial and federal signs, and those signs that are installed by third parties and third party advertisers in all three elections. So some of the I can't remember the word you used, but some of the authority that's provided in this bylaw to the clerk is because we're dealing with all three different types of elections, where you can have some very controversial and some very authoritative signs and signs that may be harmful to certain people in the community. And it allows us to take firm and quick action. The ability to apply it to taxes, that's in most of our bylaws that impose fines on people. So that's not something that's new just for candidates. That's for everybody in the municipality who has a fine imposed on them that can be added to taxes because of the municipal act. And then I did have one more comment, but I'll remember it later.
So just to, this is my last comment. So just based on all of that, because, and again, you did expand on it. It does expand to beyond us. And again, even now, more importantly, I think that blind power that we're going to delegate to your office or the clerk's office is something we need to have a better understanding of before we go ahead and do that, because it opens the door quite a bit. And I think that we need to be very careful with what we're doing here.
So through the chair, the last comment that I wanted to make is talking about policing the signs. We, just like all of our bylaws, we don't take a proactive approach, we take a reactive approach. So we would not be exhausting bylaw resources and sending them out to go and attack certain signs or certain people. It would be in response to complaints, just to clarify that.
This will be my last one. So again, that you're opening your office up to something where you're going to go and decide whether something's misleading or not. And I think that's very controversial that our clerk would be deciding that based on a reported problem. And that's why, again, this isn't just about a municipal election. This is about all the elections, and the fact that I don't think you want to have to make those decisions, to be honest with you. I think you're opening the door for yourself to have a lot of problems. And I think it's something we shouldn't delegate that authority to. So that's my comments.
CEO Drusovic.
Through the chair. So again, good conversation. I might recommend that council only adopt it for 2 readings at this point, because it does sound like there's quite a bit of feedback coming from different council members. This would give Director Malandruculo and I a chance to discuss some of the feedback that's been raised. Also, I think what's important is that we come back with the sections in the Municipal Act where there is appointed and prescribed authority to the clerk in the municipal election process. There is some of that defined, so I think it's important we let you know where that's defined, and then as well as comparables to what you see in other sign bylaws. So it'll allow us some time to do that.
Okay, thank you. I have Councilor McGuire Blaze, then Councilor Hammond, then Mayor Bondi.
Thanks through the chair. Actually, you did clear up some of my questions in regards to how this was being fined. Now knowing that this is not just for a municipal election, this is for all the elections, it does clear up some of my concerns. But I think that this is not going to pass tonight. I would rather just, because my questions are very similar to Deputy Mayor Shepley's. So I'll just send you an email and get your feedback from that, because you'll probably answer it mostly with Deputy Mayor Shepley. Thank you.
Councilor Hammond.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yeah, just one thing I want to touch on. When I ask someone if I can put a sign up there, and we can do that starting when? If you're a delegate?
So through the chair, it's 45 days prior to the election, so it's September 11th.
So if we're allowed to put signs up 45 days to the election, that homeowner's gonna have to move it at some time when they cut the grass. And where they move it to is pretty much their discretion. Do we have to go back and monitor where they're moving our signs, or is it obligated to inform them where they can and can't?
So through the chair, the sign bylaw tries to make the rules applicable to both the candidate and the property owner. So if the property owner acts in contravention of the bylaw officers would first try to get the property owner to put the sign back in accordance with the bylaw. And then if not, we would reach out to the candidate. But again, reactive, I don't see that this is going to happen too much, but if it does happen, that's how we would start with the property owner and then we go from there.
Okay, thank you. Good conversation. I don't even know if we had a standalone election sign bylaw before 2018. I don't, 2018, we didn't, because we had numerous issues with our election signs, and even one candidate had the back of town hall in his election sign. So I like the fact that we have this. We tweak it every time. I do like having 5 business days in there, because it is a lot for even a ward is a big amount to get a lot of signs out. So I do understand the concerns that the deputy mayor is bringing forward. From my experience, I want to provide a little bit of peace of mind. The clerk says, when it says the clerk usually talks with the clerk's team here, from what I've seen in past. I haven't been through an election. We have a brand new team, but it's usually, we do have, I think, to members of the public, we do have a person that we've hired to help us within our election too. So we do have that outside person, but I do understand the checks and balances that we should have. You know, if somebody is entering a report a problem just because they don't like a candidate, then it could become personal. So I think that that's what we need to look at. So one of the questions I have is, not all the candidates, one of the things of putting it on taxes, not all candidates have own homes. So that's something that, we're treating all candidates as if they're homeowners. That may not be the case. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is, we had this discussion last time when we adopted the election sign bylaw. Candidates may have a whole bunch of old signs, and what the rules are saying is that each sign has to identify which candidate. In some municipalities, it says on the bottom, there's a little print off saying this sign is endorsed by the Michael Bublé campaign. But some of us have existing signs that don't have that little blurb on it. Last time the former clerk allowed us to use I used signs back from 2010. I didn't want to buy, I wanted to save as much as I could. So do we have to go, if we have existing signs that don't say endorsed by Michael Bublé, can we still use those signs, knowing that when somebody sees elect Michael Bublé, they know it's from his campaign? So how strict is this group going to be on existing signs that don't have that little line on them?
So through the chair, that's not something that we've put our mind to. In the federal election, we did require that that was done. We did ask people that didn't have that to grab a sticker and put and add the wording through a sticker.
Okay, I want to ensure that we're not asking candidates to have the sticker because the price of the sticker is basically the price of the sign. And we're just going to throw our signs out and get new signs, and that's filling the landfill needlessly. So I would like the same thing to be in place. Federal and provincial politics, their campaigns are $100,000. They have a lot more money. Our campaigns are small. Our spending limits are not that high. So if we start adding stickers here and stickers there, next thing you know, we might as well just throw our signs out, which is not environmentally friendly. So I want us to look at this with an environmental lens. So that's something that I'm going to like to see in our policy, please. Director Malajukolo and then Councilor Mady.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify something from earlier. We talked about the height of the signs. So a sign, it is required to be 4 by 4 feet, but 5 feet high. So like no higher than 5 feet tall when placed in the ground. So it is a 5 feet height limit, but 4 by 4 is the maximum size of the sign.
Okay, Councilor Mady.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Just when you were speaking there, reusing the old signs, the cost of the old signs, do they get added on to your spending limit of this year's campaign? So if you use at today's dollars?
Yes, so through the chair, if you reuse your signs, you have to, and we've confirmed this through the Municipal Elections Act and through the local clerks in the county. If you reuse your signs, you have to provide a value of the signs at today's date. So if you were buying those signs today, how much would they cost you? That's the value you need to place on those signs in your financial income statement. We did speak with Councilor McGuire-Blaze, who brought up a really good question. What about if we have to put a re-elect sticker or some other sticker on the sign? We understand the information that we're giving to councilors right now, and you can find it on our candidates right now, and you can find it on our FAQ site on our elections website, is that if you have to purchase a sticker to put on the sign, the cost of that sticker should be deducted from the cost of the sign at today's date. So if a sign would cost, you would determine what a re-elect sign would cost you, and you withdraw the sticker cost from that price and then add the stickers as an additional cost. So if the re-elect sign cost you $100 and the sticker cost you $20, then you would put $80 for your sign, $20 for your sticker. So total for your sign cost was the $100.
Okay, at this point, we'll get a motion on the table that the legal and legislative services report be received and that bylaw 2538 be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted today. And we will have the next reading at the next meeting. Moved by so many eager counselors here. Councilor Mady, Mayor Bondi, any other questions? Councilor McGuire-Blaze.
I think we're through the chair. I think we're hesitant because there's still like a lot of things that we want changed. So I don't think we want to do 2 readings at all. I think we should, I honestly think we should defer it until the next meeting.
We have a motion on the floor, so.
So we have Director Malajukolo. Do you want to walk us through procedurally, please?
So through the chair, we have a motion on the floor. It's a 2 reading motion. We can either call for a motion to defer and go to a 1 reading motion, or we can let this motion play through. And then if it's defeated, then we can have somebody bring a 1 reading motion.
Deputy Mayor
Just a
Shepley.
point of order. I think Councilor McGuire-Blaze did make a motion to defer.
We can defer our motion, correct?
If she wants to make a motion,
Okay.
she needs a second.
Did it? Yeah, but we have a motion on the table, so
Through the chair, if you want to make a motion to defer this motion until we can bring a motion on a 1 reading bylaw, you can do that. You'll need a seconder, and then we'll vote on the motion to defer.
okay,
And
let's
then
do
you could
that.
bring the 1 reading bylaw, and then you'll need a seconder, and you can bring the 1 reading bylaw.
Okay, let's defer.
Okay, Councilor McGuire-Blaze makes a motion to defer, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Point of order. So she's making a motion to defer this to the next council meeting, not to go and make a one reading bylaw after. A motion is to defer it to the next meeting.
Three readings at the next meeting.
So you could do that, yeah, you could bring that, whatever you want to bring. I had misunderstood what you were trying to bring. If that's what you want to bring, go ahead and bring it. And if you get a seconder, we can hear it. And we'll put the other one on hold until we finish dealing with that
Okay.
motion.
Through the chair, I want to defer it, the entire thing, until the next council meeting.
Okay, and that was supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Does this need a simple majority? Motion to defer? Simple majority. Okay. All in favor to defer to the next meeting? Opposed? Counselor Maybe. Okay. All right. Moving on. Lots of fun stuff. Legal and legislative services, request for proposal for a superintendent and caregiver of cemeteries. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the report be received and that council award the request for proposal for the superintendent and caretaker of cemeteries to Bezaire Lawn Maintenance in the amount of $109,980, including non-refundable HST to be adjusted annually in accordance with the CPI for a 2-year term with the option to extend for 2 additional 1-year renewal periods, subject to the satisfactory performance and mutual agreement. And that bylaw 2538 be read first, second, and third time and finally passed on May 19th. Moved by Councillor Hammond, Councillor Verbeek. I do have one question to Director Malandruklo. We did talk about it today, but I think it's worthy of public notice. At one of our cemeteries, there's a lot of flowers in there. Sometimes there's a windstorm. The wind blows the flowers across Erie Road onto the side. And almost every year, myself, this time a resident and we went and cleaned it up. Is this something we can look at in our contract, Director Malandruklo, so that I don't have to set my reminder every year?
So through the chair, we did ask the proponent as our superintendent and caretaker if she would be amenable to that. She said for an additional cost, she would be. So we did add that into this contract. So we do have the ability to engage those services as long as we have authority from the property owner to enter onto that property, and we have money in the budget to pay for that.
Okay, thank you, Director Malandruklo. I certainly don't want to be littering out there. So I'm glad to see this. Deputy Mayor Shepley?
Mayor Bundy, I'm just wondering if we could make an amendment, and I know we've got a proponent in the back that's good. Yeah.
Okay, just because we have a motion on the table, I'll come right back to you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Deputy Mayor Shepley?
I'm just wondering if we could maybe make an amendment, move Inspirational Park up. I know we've got a member from here to possibly speak to it. I'm not sure, but I just wonder if we can just move it up. So we've still got a couple ahead of it. And in order to move this along for him, we can move that up.
Sure. Motion by Deputy Mayor Shepley to amend the order of business to move up report number 1011, the Inspiration Industrial Park Agreement. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Verbeek, all in favor? That's carried. Okay. Inspirational Industrial Park Development, I think like the most exciting thing all night. Director Chadwick.
All right, thank you, Mayor Bondi and Deputy Mayor as well. So the purpose of this report is to recommend provisional adoption of bylaw number 2518 to authorize a development agreement between the town and Inspiration Industrial Park Limited. That's for the purpose of the proposed Inspiration Industrial Park located at 14978 14th Concession, just on the other side of Highway 3. So the agreement is required to facilitate the development of the industrial park. And typically what development agreements do is they outline responsibilities of the owner in meeting various municipal development requirements, particularly and mostly related to infrastructure requirements. This milestone, as we know, moves us one step closer to creating 6 large, fully serviced industrial lots just off of Highway 3, helping position our municipality to attract new industrial development and investment, but also supporting local business expansion and, of course, creating future jobs. So as council is aware, this project is being developed in partnership with a local business owner, Mr. Abe Friesen of Essex Weld, and also includes expansion of both sanitary and water services and infrastructure to support not only the business park or industrial park, but also future adjacent employment lands. overall, we are quite proud and very excited for council and the developer. This is a significant long-term investment in economic development and infrastructure that will help strengthen our community for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Chadwick. Councillor Verbeek.
Through the mayor, let's just kick this off. Yahoo, bravo. I'm just really, moving the industrial sector in Essex has been slow going for a while, and this council term and this administration have been moving the needle forward this term and expanding this Essex industrial sector. And we are very proud and happy to do this. This inspirational industrial park is going to generate growth. It's going to generate jobs. It's going to generate new tax revenue. It's going to bring people to our town and to our businesses, which is also great for the economy. So we're really lucky that we approved those apartment buildings earlier tonight, because we're going to need more housing for all the jobs that this park is going to generate. So thank you for choosing Essex. I do have just a couple of questions. And this will be for administration. In the one page of the report, it outlines that the full cost is going to be borne by the applicants for the construction of the water main, the sanitary sewer, the pump station. Is that correct the way I read it? And it says that the design and the location specifications are to be fulfilled by June 21st, 2027. I just wonder is the intent to move forward right then with the like the work for the water main and the sanitary after? I'm sorry. I have another question after that.
Through you, Mayor Bondi, Councillor Verbeek, just to clarify, I think you meant January 2027.
January, I guess, and that's exactly what I wrote. I read it wrong.
Okay, so January 2027, that is the, we'll call it the deadline for meeting conditions of consent. The lots were created through the consent process, and that is through the Committee of Adjustment as delegated by council. So applicants are given 2 years to meet certain conditions of consent. This is one of them. There are 1 or 2 other conditions that need to be met, and the lots can then be registered on title and essentially be sold. Your question about the costs borne on the applicant, I'm going to defer that to CAO Drusevich, please.
Through the chair, this is a unique situation of servicing where we're working concurrently with the developer to come up with a agreement where he will pay the development charges first prior to construction. And so any servicing mention in relation to the developer is in accordance with the development charges in effect at the time of agreeing to this agreement. So no, in short, he is not paying for the entire cost. It is borne by a shared costing model of any lots that are in benefit to that expansion.
Okay, thank you for clarification, because certainly the servicing has been a delay in moving this needle forward with the industrial sector. My next question is about the agreement to pay cash in lieu for the parkland. I believe we've had this discussion before about whether when we choose to take cash from the developer as opposed to the parkland, if that money remains within that ward. And I suppose I'll expand now, since both of them are in Ward 2, can that money be held in lieu for our Essex sports field?
Through the chair. So the town does have 4 separate reserves, and at the time of building permit issuance, wherever that permit is issued is the corresponding reserve that it gets deposited to. So because the permit will be issued in Ward 2, it will go into Ward 2's Parkland Reserve.
Further, is the sports field eligible for the parkland money?
Through the chair, so it's something that we're gonna have to look at when we come to budget time, to be honest, because of the boundaries of it. So I would recommend leaving it with administration. I know that what I'm saying is there needs to be a review of the parkland dedication bylaw and how it's worded before we move monies around. So I can have that as a takeaway and get back to you on that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Verbeek. Well, you're here. I may get in trouble for this later, but if you want to say anything, you can come up, Abe. Did you want to? No? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we're excited you're here. Thank you for sticking it out for us. Councilor McGuire Blaze.
Through the chair, I just want to say this is a long time coming. I am so grateful to see that we're finally making some progress here. Whatever you need, like, come and ask us. I want a shovel in the ground tomorrow if we could. So I feel like we are ready to push this through. We want to see development. We want to, this is a perfect place for it. I hope that you have sellers or buyers, and I hope that we can see this progress quickly for you and for the municipality. So thank you.
Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Just a comment, same thing. I'm glad to see this moving forward. It's a good news, and my apologies for not catching this and moving it up sooner. So, but you got to watch a lot of entertaining talks tonight, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you. I think Councilor Verbeek is what she was trying to get at, and I believe a lot of residents are asking about our sports fields, but developments like this are exactly what we need, increased tax assessment to help get our sports fields up and running. So I'm thrilled to see this too. Okay, looking for a mover and a seconder that this be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed May 19th. Councilor Guerin, Councilor Verbeek, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. Okay, back to, you can hang out now. We're talking spay and neuter vouchers if you want. Have a good night. Legal and Legislative Services 2025 Annual Report on Spay and Neuter Voucher Program and our Trap Neuter Release Program. I'll get the report on the table, and then Director Malandrucolo can speak to it. Looking for a mover and a seconder that this be received for information. Moved by Councilor McGuire Blaze, Councilor Allard. Any questions for Director Malandrucolo? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Legal and Legislative Services. Legal and Legislative Services Restricted Acts Lame Duck Delegation of Authority. I will go to Director Malandrucolo for this.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you. This is another elections bylaw. This is required by legislation. We need to create a bylaw as a council in order to deal with the situation where the clerk determines that more than 25% of council may turn over in an election. There are two trigger dates for this. The first trigger date being on the confirmation of candidates on August 21st. And the second trigger date being on the election date on October 26th. If we have on October 21st, more than 25% of our council being challenged for their seat, we will end up in a lame duck council. And then on October 26th, if more than 25% of council has turned over, we will end up in a lame duck council. The way that we wrote the bylaw, and it's a little confusing by the report, because of the way that the council meetings are occurring this year. So the election is on October 26th. The last meeting of our current council is on November 2nd. The first meeting, which is our inaugural meeting, where the new council is sworn in, is on November 16th. So in between election and the first meeting where council is actually performing business, we have over almost 2 months. So the first time council is performing business is going to be on December 14th. So what we did in this bylaw is we asked for the lame duck period, if it needs to be put into effect, to last from August 21 till October 26, and then again from October 26 to December 14th. Even though when the new council is sworn in on November 16, they can effectively be called in for an emergency meeting. And we expect that the CAO and the treasurer would do that if necessary. But because that there might be something important that happens prior to council actually being able to make a decision on December 14th, we have the lame duck period extended all the way to that December 14th meeting. So if there's any questions on that, I'm here to answer them. We are looking today again for a provisional adoption, so only 2 readings on this one, as there's not a sense of urgency with this bylaw.
Okay, thank you, Director Malandrucolo. Any comments, questions from members of council this evening? Nothing from members of council? I will start off then, unless there's anything else. So I know that we have to have this. I don't see the need for lame duck council going all the way to December 14th. I'm not sure if we've had that in the past. I think that once we're sworn in, we are council. We can have our authority back. I don't think we need to give it up for a whole other month. I think that the general public expect us to be the leaders. It's just like right now. Tonight, we end this council meeting. We don't have another council meeting for 2 more weeks. But that doesn't mean we delegate our authority for 2 weeks. We have our authority. We will have a mayor, whoever that is, and that mayor can call a meeting at that point. So I'd like to see us remove that clause, because once we're sworn in that night, you know, and if there was something that night that we wanted to do, we could actually bring up something in our inaugural meeting, if so be it. If we are council and we are making those decisions, that's what we could do. If this did pass like this, and I was the mayor, or what I would do is I would call a meeting on November 18th and rescind this bylaw and give us back our authority, because that's people elected a council to represent the people. So those are my comments, pretty strong opinions, but I think that the authority lies with us. So I will open it up now to council in case. Sure, Director Malandrucolo.
So if that's how council feels, I'm perfectly okay with that. It's something that we tried to account for because we saw some potential issues. Also, the fact that you have an untrained council for that period of time, council is going to be asked to come in for training probably 4 or 5 times in that period. If we also have to have a meeting, it'll be another time for council to come in and do that. But again, it was just something that we threw in there as a courtesy, understanding that maybe there might be an emergency where we can't get council in. An untrained council could be operating at that time. And a council that's already exhausted with a bunch of meetings that maybe can't come to another meeting at that time. But again, just in there as a courtesy, not sold on the date. We're happy to make it November 16th if that is the desire of council.
Okay, thank you. Those are good valid points. I'm sure there'll be a few of us returning. I'm not sure who. I'm just sure there's a few. Deputy Mayor Sheffley.
Yeah, I'm glad you commented on that, because I did catch that, and it was a little misunderstanding as to why we would do that. And, you know, I'm assuming, hopefully a lot of us are back and we don't end up in that position. So hopefully, but I do agree with Mayor Bondi. Once elected, we can make those decisions. If you're running for council, you got to be ready to get in there and move, because emergencies do come up.
Any other members of council? If not, I will get a motion on the floor that legal and legislative services report be received and that bylaw 2534 be read first, second, time and provisionally adopted May 19th. Moved by Councilor McGuire Blaze, Deputy Mayor Sheffley, all in favor? That's carried. All right, Finance and Business Services, results of request for proposal for investment management services. That finance, I'm going to get a mover on the table. That Finance and Business Services report be received and that council appoint Hobson Shuttle Advisory Group, CIBC Wood Gundy, as the town's investment management service provider until April 30th, 2027, with the option renew for an additional 4 one-year terms with a final renewal end date no later than April 30th, 2031. Looking for a mover and a seconder, and then we will have Director Rowe walk us through it. Councilor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councilor Mady. Director Rowe?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So if you'll bear with me, I do want to walk everyone through the report. I think this is a big development for the town of Essex and the first of a few steps in getting our strategy along the way. On November 17th, of course, the Finance Committee received and supported the investment policy, and the minutes were adopted by council on December 1st. This gives council, or leaves authority with council, to appoint the investment advisor following a transparent selection process, and authority to the treasurer to work with said advisor to develop a strategy for cash not required immediately, which is the technical term for the cash we're looking to invest. The purpose of the report tonight is step one being to appoint the investment advisor. And following the appointment of the advisor, a strategy will be developed and presented to council. We, of course, are recommending the successful proponent following a request for proposal. We had a total of 4 valid bids, and the successful proponent scored highest on both categories, being the fee structure and the qualitative considerations that we took into account. Hobson Chalal, as I said, scored highest out of all of those. They're based out of Burlington, Ontario, but they do have clients in our area and are regularly in our area presenting to council or working with administration, depending on the nature of what it is they're working on. There will be 3 main advisors that will be working with us on our portfolio if the advisor is appointed tonight. And they are well versed with municipal investment restrictions because they specialize in public sector clients, particularly with municipalities of various sizes, locations, different portfolio sizes. So really well versed and suited to assist us through our next steps here. The fee structure is customizable to ensure that we're maximizing value. And there are a number of complementary value-added services as well, including reporting to council to provide updates. Following tonight's appointment, we will, admin will meet with the advisors to explain our objectives, outcome, and risk profile. A customized portfolio will be developed, and then we will be working to schedule a dedicated meeting to introduce the advisor to council and present the investment strategy. Following that, I will work closely with the advisor throughout the year, and council can expect annual investment reports presented so that you're aware of the status of our portfolio as well as the returns that we're realizing. I'm happy to answer any further questions that I may not have addressed through the summary.
Thank you, Director Rowe. This is a smart move for our municipality. I'm excited to be part of it. Any questions from members of council this evening? Do I have a mover in a second? No? No? Okay, at this point, I'll seek a mover and a seconder that the Finance and Business Service, I think I do. I remember reading this all out. No? Did you? Okay, sorry, it's been a long night, everybody. I do have a mover and a seconder. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Community Services Special Event Notice, Isler Lodge Car and Motorcycle Show. Looking for a mover and a seconder that this report be received and that council approve closing a portion of Isler Avenue between Hanlon Street and Jenner Street from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Saturday, May 23rd for the Isler Lodge Car Show and Motorcycle Event. So they just got this in under the wire. Looking for a move by Councilor McGuire Blaze, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. I'm just wondering if there's going to be a social media post or something about this to advise residents of this. Director Morsuit.
Thank you, Mayor Ronnie. Yes, we do social media posts with road closures. At this point, we don't know if this road closure is a definitive thing to happen. They were concerned about having overflow and the need if they had too many people attend the event. This gives them the permission to close it if necessary, but we will still plan a social media post, but just know that it may or may not happen.
Okay, thank you. I'll be busy with the yard sale, so if people are calling me complaining, I won't be able to answer. So I'm glad to see it on our social media. Any other questions? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. reports from our youth members. They are not in attendance tonight for our first meeting. County Council update. We do have the correspondence 12.1, looking for a mover and a seconder to receive it. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor McGuire Blaze. Any questions on it? All in favor? That's carried. Correspondence to be received, looking for a mover and a seconder that we receive it all, and then we can pull out items. Moved by Councillor Guerin, Councillor Mady. All in favor? That's carried. Any items any members of council wish to pull out? Councillor Verbeek.
Yep, through you, Madam Mayor, 13.1.6 from the town of Tecumseh. I would just like to also send a letter of support.
Okay, thank you. So moved by Councillor Verbeek that the proposed consolidation of the conservation authorities be, we show support. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor Mady. Any other questions on that particular one? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Any other items? The other one from the town of Tecumseh, we did point it out to Director Gerard. I'm wondering if that's something that our administration can comment on. It's a local municipality and they're talking about the harmonization of municipal road construction standards and associated governance model. Is this something worthy of supporting, Director Gerard?
Through the chair. So, yeah, so in the Bill 98 report that was provided to council a few meetings back, the harmonization of road standards was included in the comments. So we do receive the MEA correspondence, and we also resonate pretty well with it, actually. And a lot of our comments that we developed as part of that Bill 98 report were taken from this correspondence and considered in those comments. Unfortunately, unfortunately, the harmonization of road standards falls under the MTO, and it wasn't available for public comment, but council has supported this through the Bill 98 report.
Okay, so I'd like to see if council will support our neighboring community and the work they've done there. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor McGuire Blaze. So we'll send this to our list as well. All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Any other items of correspondence from members of council? I have one myself, 13.1.1, the Town of Halton Hills, request for review of the municipal provincial fiscal framework. This is something that we've been ongoing, talking about through AMO, through Roma, asking the province to review how money is allocated, because it seems like there's constantly a downloading onto local municipalities and not enough funds for items like homelessness and housing, and we're experiencing a lot of that right here and there. So I'm looking to see if there's a support from council to support this one as well. Moved by Councillor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? All in favor? That's also carried. Any other items, council? Seeing none, correspondence to be received and supported. We have our Director and Deputy CEO of Community Services, National Accessibility Week. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the correspondence from Director Morrisute to be received and supported, and that council proclaim May 31st to June 6th, the National Accessibility Week in the town of Essex by adopting the following resolution. Oh, moved by Councillor Allard, supported by Councillor Hammond. Director Malanjuqua.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, through you. Whereas National Accessibility Week, NAAW, is held annually to celebrate the valuable contributions and leadership of Canadians with disabilities and to promote efforts to increase accessibility and inclusion across communities and workplaces. Whereas the town of Essex is committed to fostering a vibrant, welcoming, and inclusive community where all residents, regardless of ability, can fully participate and thrive. Whereas accessibility is a shared responsibility that requires ongoing collaboration, education, and action to eliminate barriers and ensure equity of opportunity and experience for all. Whereas the town of Essex recognizes the importance of meaningful inclusion and the role of persons with disabilities in enriching the social, cultural, and economic fabric of our community. And whereas National Accessibility Week encourages reflection, dialogue, and action to create environments that are not only accessible, but inclusive by design and built in partnership with those with lived experiences.
Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Therefore, I, Sherry Bondi, Mayor of the Town of Essex, do hereby proclaim May 31st to June 6th, 2026 as National Accessibility Week in the town of Essex and encourage all residents, businesses, and organizations to join in advancing accessibility and celebrating the contributions of people with disabilities in our community. We have some committee meeting minutes, looking for a mover and a seconder that we adopt all the committee meeting minutes, the appeals, the Affordable Housing Task Force, and Essex Municipal Heritage. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. We have our Q1 operating variance report, looking for a mover and a seconder that this received for information. Councillor Hammond. Councillor Guerin, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. We have our Q1 capital variance report, looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor McGuire Blaze. Any questions from members of council? I do have some myself. I did meet with the CAO about this. I love these reports. We need to really highlight what's going on in them, because what you see is how much we're spending on projects. And what I noticed is some projects come in over budget. We all know that they come in over budget. But what I saw in here is how some projects have been coming in significantly under budget, which doesn't mean we have play money. But for example, Irwin Avenue is one. Our total budget was 3.9 million and the budget savings was $1 million. So honing down on this a little bit, I would like council to get more information on projects that are coming over and projects that are coming under, because we could be going into a new year budget with $3 or $4 million in the bank already, that by no ill intent of administration has been earmarked for other projects that or put in reserves. And I think we should be a little bit more informed of the overages or the underage. So if you could talk about what we talked about, please.
Through the chair, and I have yet to update Director Rowe, so we'll have a chat afterwards. But we talked about the possibility of maybe with the financial statements, some sort of report. We can determine further what that looks like, but I can appreciate there should be a happy medium of how those funds are rolled into reserves. And so it may also be a planning tool for future budget deliberations. I know Irwin, the example provided, was grant funded. And so what happens is the grant funding has to be spent within a certain amount of time, and that grant funding is allocated to infrastructure projects within its eligibility. So something for us to think about, but I do think there's merit in a year-end closeout report to accompany the financials.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, it was just something I brought to our attention today. Once I was reading it, I thought, it'd be nice just to have a little bit more information. And the other thing, while we're on capital projects here, I'm wondering if somebody can update us on the status of the capital projects map that was on our website, but is now being worked on. Director Gerard?
Yeah, through you. Really, Manager Tortola should take the credit because he did most of the work. But I can say with great happiness that we'll be able to actually launch this tomorrow. So tomorrow there'll be a notification to council, and we're going to be rolling it out on our socials that we've revamped entirely the new capital projects map, and it includes some features like a digital map, an interactive map that has a pop-up window so you can see where your project is occurring. It also includes financials as well, so how much of the budget has been spent, which will be updated quarterly. So we've made some significant changes to that, and that'll roll out tomorrow.
That's great. I'm so excited. It's like such an exciting week. Okay, looking for, I think we have a mover and a seconder for the capital variance report. Councilor Mady.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Just one question on the Eiler Road. It looks like we've spent $280,000, but then it says construction to begin in Q2. I think construction's already started on Eiler Road, hasn't it?
Through the chair. So some projects do include a third lift. So it's likely that that's what you're seeing is the third lift go on. So typical construction for surface treatment would be 2 lifts in the year of construction, and best practices do the third lift in the following year.
Okay, thank you. Isla Road was also the one that we cut in half. So I was just on it the other day. I went to Priscilla's Presents for ice cream. So the north half is done. The southern half looks kind of weird right now. It looks like we've done cold patch all the way up it. I don't know. So maybe that's preparing the base. But it was a road that we really wanted to get done this term of council. So I'm really happy about that. Any other questions on the capital variance report? All in favor? That's carried. We do have a notice of motion by Councillor Verbeek. I'll go to Director Malingre-Clos.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you, the following notice of motion was presented at the May 4, 2026 regular council meeting and is being brought forth this evening for council's consideration. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, whereas residents along the 12th concession have raised ongoing safety concerns related to lighting and the depth of the Walker drain. And whereas council requires clear information, including financial implications, to make informed decisions during future budget deliberations. Therefore, be it resolved that council direct administration to prepare and provide a report outlining potential safety enhancements for the 12th concession from Walker Road to the Chrysler Greenway for the installation of street lighting and guide rail along the Walker drain. That such report include detailed cost estimates for the improvements, and that such report be brought forward to council in time for consideration in the 2027 capital budget deliberations.
Okay, thank you, Director Malingre-Clos. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor McGuire-Blaze. Councillor Verbeek, you wish to speak to your motion?
Sure, thanks. Through you, Madam Mayor, and because it's getting late, I'll keep it really short because it's pretty self-explanatory. My time here, I've had a number of people in the last year or two with concerns. And the two big ones are, since the Walker drain was dredged and cleared, as it much needed to be done, there's a perception that it's really scary because there's no more trees there, right? And it is deeper. And I will be honest that there's a history of accidents there, not in my time, not recently, but in talking to residents about this notice of motion, I happened across two people that had been at two different accidents that had gone through that T there and down. So I understand their level of fear. There's only two entrances to the park, where there are over 440 homes. So there's like over 1,000 residents that come and go. And the option is out onto Walker Road or out onto Concession 12. And it's a T, so it's a straight through off of Parkside. The only lighting there right now is provided by the park, and it's private property. So we can't tell them what they can and can't do with their private property. But the lighting is about 12 feet back from the Concession 12, and it is very dim. It's in, even some of the complaints I heard were that it's dark in the winter for the kids that gather there, because all the kids gather there because that's where the bus stops. And in the winter, it's still dark. So I've had a couple of conversations with Director Gerard, who shocked me with the cost of guardrails. So I think if we can get it on paper and we have it come to us at deliberation time, the residents will see that running, a half a mile of guardrail is just, it's an exorbitant fee. I had no idea until we spoke how expensive it would be to put the length of guardrail that is hoped for. However, I think we do need to look at some options. It is dark and it's hard to get around the corner. Since this conversation has started, I learned that in early 2000s, the county council passed, they moved that all T sections in the county, all of our county roads had illumination, had lights, specifically where there was like T. So that's how, when you're coming out Concession 8, Concession 5, Concession 6, and you hit the Arnertown line, or say one of the roads that doesn't cross, it's lit. Any county road has that intersection lit. And this is a very dark intersection that comes to a T. So I'm hoping that Director Gerard and his team can just look at some options for lighting that up a little more, with being that we're restricted, we can't go. So we did talk about maybe looking at, I think you said you could possibly look at some new a new hydro post that was put in there, if we could share that, or I'm just asking them to look at some options that we can discuss in a future budget.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rabique. Any other questions, comments from members of council? I want to thank you for raising this on behalf of the community there. I know that it's important to them. All in favor? And that is carried. The next notice of motion is deferred until we have a meeting. Reports and announcements from council members. It is a very long evening. So I'm just going to, my one highlight is, again, we had the mayor's community luncheon with community living, and our staff employees from community living are doing really well here. And we're looking to shortly bring in some youth in action like we did last summer. So really happy with how everything's going. Any other, oh, and there is the charity yard sale this weekend. Hopefully there's no rain. I hope there is no rain. And if there's rain, then we'll have it the following weekend. But right now I'm praying for no rain. Any other announcements? Councillor Verbeek.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Just a quick note. We had a lot of good news tonight, we've moved a lot of things forward, and one report slid through that I think we should take some pride in. Since 2020, since the start of the spay and neuter program, we've seen 715 cats fixed. So that's a lot less babies.
Thank you. It's a good fun fact. Can you imagine if all those cats had cats and then cats? Any other members of council have any other announcements? Okay, seeing none, it has come to my attention that I got really excited at the beginning of the meeting, and I did not formally get the adoption of the closed meeting minutes. I think I was just too excited. So looking for a mover and a seconder that we adopt the closed meeting minutes held April 27th. 2026. This is a new addition to our agenda too. Closed meeting minutes. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Guerin, all in favor? That's carried. And needing a mover and a seconder that we adopt the closed meeting minutes for April 27th as well. Move Councillor Hammond, Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor. Sorry about that, council. I think I was just too excited. Bylaws that require a third and final reading. Bylaw 2529 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the May 4th regular council meeting. Be read a third time, finally passed on May 19th, moved by Councillor Guerin, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor. That's carried. Bylaw 2536 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the May 19th to be read a first, second time, provisionally adopted May 19th. Moved by Councillor Allard, Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. And at this time, I'll seek a motion to adjourn. Thank you for joining us this evening. Councillor Allard, Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor? That's carried. Mark, don't worry, it's not always this late. That was